Let's see if this is recording.
Yeah, that makes it. I'll just
do the things.
I'll just grab it if I require it because otherwise.
Do I want to tag you? No, fuck it. I'll tag you.
Tag me.
You want to be tagged? I'll tag you. I'll tag you, girl.
Are we on now?
We're on over here.
We're on live.
I'm gonna
not on audio.
wait until this is got at least one human on there.
On my my thingy.
Yeah, let me throw it in our group too.
Yeah.
Hello, Jenny Shaw. We'll be with you in just a moment, friends. We're gonna.
You might have to show me how to do the.
We're gonna social media the hell out of this.
Right.
Well, this should be on my page.
My phone was off. Hang on.
Okay.
That's how much we.
That's how much we're prepared.
Turning off the phone.
We don't even know what we're doing.
No.
Sure.
You don't have to.
All right, I'm gonna share it in my group. You could always share it later
too.
All right. What's up, people? We're going to record a live podcast.
All right. Well, my phone's going to take minutes. We'll
just
let you share.
Grab
I'll share
that
later.
and we'll do it later.
Cool.
Let's see how this goes. All right, friends. We are live. I don't even know where to begin with this one.
It's like a mouse on your thing. I was like, what's happening?
That's my merkin. For those of you guys who don't know what a merkin is, it's a toupee for your balls.
I was like, ooh, what are we going to play
That
with?
might be the best beginning to a podcast that I've ever done. So
how's the ball fur?
How's the ball fur? So here's something super special for everybody tuning in right now. I don't even remember when the last time we sat and downloaded something. It's been probably 18 months or so.
Every time we do though, it's
I don't know what's going to happen here today. So let me just start with this, guys. If you're just listening to audio and you can't see who's next to me, let me think about all the adjectives I want to use here.
You always describe me so well.
So we have a galactic alien queen, profoundly divine human angel, the one and only Marci Lockin is here with me. If for those of you guys that don't have context about Marci Lockin, only because we were like orbiting around each other. Orbiting is an understatement for a few years, and Marci's kind of on a little bit of her own journey right now. So we get to pop in, not nearly as much as we'd like to. But
I've been global, and I get to see you when I drop in here.
For sure. So so those who don't know that, Marci is one of the most genius, prolific. I want to call her a coach, but she's so many other things. She's like a healer and transcended and masterful in so many areas of psychology and energetics and channeling and divinely guided. And I've seen this woman do some of the most incredible things, be with some of the most incredible things that most humans just, I don't know how they would be with it. So Marci was a mentor for both me and Elon for nearly a year and a half. I have traveled the world with this woman. We have done some pretty extraordinary things that would scare the pants off of most people.
That's why you were the one who chose in to follow me.
Exactly,
Most
exactly.
people were too scared.
You don't find Marci just for shits and giggles. So I'm so honored to be sitting here, and usually our interviews are less of interviews and more like ascended downloads. So I guess we'll find out what happens today. But welcome, it's so good to have you.
Excited. I just want to touch you. I still use our little do you remember this one? Just one little peepee touch.
I do it all the time. One little thing, yeah.
Do
you want to touch our microphones together and see if anything happens?
It's like, what are you talking about?
I know. Touch. Yeah, and so we also have people tuning in on Facebook, so hi to the Facebook crowd.
Yay.
So here we are. What did I call this thing? I said something about...
I think you called it being human and ascending at the same time.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Because you actually, we'll start here, that's the compliment you gave me, right?
Yeah.
You said, Mars, this is a compliment, but you look more human than ever.
Yes, it is a compliment. And I have to say that because a few years back, if I would have said that to somebody, I would have thought of it like a put down.
Yeah.
Which is ironic. Elon and I have this example. We say... you know how we make excuses for the things that we do, and we'll say like, "Oh, that's you're just being human," or "That's so human."
Yeah.
So and that's usually meant in a derogatory way.
As well.
And then we would say, "Well, humans also run into burning buildings and save people, but why don't we say, well, that's just human when that happens?"
That's why I say it's the holy human journey now. Instead of
I
used to say,
journey.
That's just my human shit. Now I actually call it my holy human journey because I realize being human is our holiest. experience.
Thank you. So for me, this is always interesting because I feel like if people who are kind of like at the apex of human evolution, there's like a frequency, right? Like a music, like a song that we're all listening to, and the music makes you dance in a particular way, right? Like we're always evolving how we're using our bodies and how we're using language and how we're thinking and how we're using energy. And so here we are in this time period that suddenly everyone seems to be making this, not everyone, but people who are paying attention and trying to read the manual are seemingly having this new conversation that to me seems like it appeared out of nowhere in the last few years. You might hear people saying things like alignment, a lot more stuff about energetics, subtle energy, causal energy, non-dual, such and such. These are just like, vernacular in the conversation. But what's funny, what seems to have come out of this period of time really is this like compliment to being a human, because suddenly we just had this conversation right before we got on live.
We finally decided to
we're like, well, now that we're chatting nonstop, we should probably just hit the button. Is that we're kind of in this seemingly new period where for the first time we get to experience both awakened
embodiment.
Yeah, an embodiment versus trying to like transcend the human experience all the time. It's actually like becoming more and more human. So that's why for me it's like suddenly that's a compliment where 2-3 years ago I was just trying to fucking escape. I was trying to get the hell out of here.
Get out of your body. Totally.
Home was the stars. Home is the stars. And it felt more comfortable to be there. The human
in your human body with all of its human feels.
The human experience is dense. So we think. Probably is not actually. It's probably very light. We're making it dense. And I've always been rather uncomfortable in my body all these years. We were also talking about that, like just, having like a placid look on your face and looking very well put together and composed, but the inside is like rattling and shaking.
Nervous system overwhelmed.
And nervous system overwhelmed, that also says a lot about how the chakra system is and energetics is moving.
Which your ego is actually your greatest partner, so it's a lot of the
totally.
things
So that's a huge compliment today. If I find someone being more human than most humans are humaning, then I find that to be exquisite.
Well, I love that. I mean, when you brought into context, it's like as I think about, you said if you would want to believe if you met Jesus in front of you, and that he would actually be the most, of course, a most open, most human, like the most, the frequency of divine unconditional love, support, and acceptance. And so I was like, well, actually that's really my focus this last year is to been, if my priority is always absolutely peace. If I am peace and I'm the relaxing into whatever I'm experiencing, always getting comfortable with everything that feels in discomfort. I'm comfortable with discomfort. That's been the journey of our human, to be comfortable with every emotion, every experience, etc. is to what I feel is calling forth, in which you and Alon very much step into and exemplify as well, is that we're, it's not about having it all in that we're not enough right now. It's about how do you be at complete peace with your experience in that you're in right now. And that is the having it all, because you are receiving all of it, all parts of you. So as a whole human, it's like, the micro to the macro, every single part of our cell is a view of the cosmos. And so if we're everything and every trait, our wholeness as a whole human is what brings wholeness to the planet. And so what I really felt called to this year was how much more we're seeking people to stand as an example of unconditional self-acceptance, radical self-acceptance, which means as I lean into that journey of unconditional radical self-acceptance, then of course I can only also see self-acceptance in all things. And so that makes me feel like that is the human in embodiment, is to say I'm so accepting of every inch of me, going through your body stories to your, the stories and programming around what it should look like, as we've talked about, like, being coaches where it's like I was the $1 million coach. And, like what that looks like, like, worthy of all the abundance. And also, can I completely love myself and just serve and do what feels the most fulfilling for me and the most satisfying for me and what's calling me forth, what's the most nourishing for my soul. And it actually has nothing to do with the numbers in the bank account, etc. So there's this total embodiment, as you said, of being so okay with all of our humanness, and also at the same time be the frequency of all of our multidimensional capabilities and understanding to see the bigger view and perception that I am the frequency of love, and that is all here.
Yeah.
So
that brings up an interesting thing. You know, about a year and a half ago, someone asked me this question, and I don't have an answer for it. And I like that I don't have an answer for it. And he said, if you woke up tomorrow and there was nothing to achieve, what would you do? And I thought, I don't know what I would do. And then I thought, have I ever done anything for your achievement? And I couldn't think of one example. Legitimately could not think of one example. So you mentioned service. And service, as altruistic as it may be, oftentimes is done despite oneself. I've actually served despite myself for a very long time because of the stories of sacrifice and things of this nature. And those are like, when finally facing the stories of sacrifice, you realize that you've basically been handing people things from an empty cup, which means you haven't been giving very much at all, or at least not in an integrous type of way, to you. Not like there was an integrity in giving and just an integrity in how you were giving. And then, of course, like you give and you give and you give, and then eventually the tab comes due and you're like, I've given, where's mine? And that's a good indicator.
It comes from a low vibrational frequency.
Good indicator that
you're not
you're truly giving.
Out of have to, right?
Yeah, so you mentioned service kind of like
in a very different way.
Without the $1 Million Coach identity and all that stuff. And I when I was down in the jungle of Colombia, so the first time we went down to the jungles of Colombia to drink medicine with this beautiful family, Marci was my Sherpa down there. So now I get to bring my people down there, which has been such a gift because that place is like the Garden of Eden, and you open that up for us. What I got somewhat clear about down there is like that things get to shift right now, like service gets to shift. I actually started having ideas about like a new economy, and we're moving in that direction anyway. If you think of like Uber and all these different things, like it won't be appropriate for people to own things not too distant in the future anymore. We'll share everything. So I was like, okay, well, you know, if one of the things that we got to share was like, we didn't need to share money. We just kind of actually like went, it would be like old school, but new school way. Like we would barter, right? Because really the only thing that matters is our gifts. Like you said, what is it I'm most inclined of? What is it I'm most passionate about? So I started thinking like, even the people right now that I pay for services, I'm like, the best relationship would be both of us in our gifts all the time, sharing our gifts with each other, and then finding people who like you can have this because it's all energy exchange. Money is just energy exchange.
All God's money.
Yeah,
all energy
exactly.
exchange.
Money doesn't fucking exist. We're trying to measure something that's kind of ridiculous to measure. But I thought of this like energy exchange world, and I was thinking, well, how would that look? But I started thinking, even the people I work with right now, I want to start approaching them with like this like really beautiful energy exchange. Like you set your gifts, I set my gifts. And we look at how we could do that. And maybe money's involved as part of it, but it doesn't have to be the only reason why we like meet and how we measure the reason that we meet. So I guess my question out of all that is, obviously a lot has changed this last year for you. Like Marci's been traveling the world, stepped away.
It's a call to the next level of freedom, which was,
So how would you define service now?
Well, so when you said what, if you woke up tomorrow and had nothing to do, etc., like what would you do? The first thing that came up for me is like, I would do what I'm doing, which was like, I'm doing what I feel called to do. And so this was what I was called to go that next level, was because you touched on how service can be attached to, we have attachments, expectations, it's a validation, it's an identity. I realized that there was all these things I was feeling calling, like wanting to come out of me or through me, like wanting to be open up and activated, next level, activating more of my gifts and who I am, and serving in the world. I do that slowly for quotation marks for whoever's on audio. Serving in the world was actually just a identity for how I was validating who I was. Absolutely. It was like, okay, well, I'm a coach and a mentor. My guide, you and Alana are my personal clients. Like, you take you guys all over the world. It's all cool, awesome stuff that I was passionate about. Totally. Yet it was in a framework of, this is my identity. This is what I get in return for it. So, it was like there's definitely some underlying attachments, expectations, validations. There's things there energetically that are saying, I serve to receive this. I serve to be this person. And as you touch on it, it's like, this, coming from where I was before, very much in the religion I was raised in, it was like, as a mom, we sacrifice, we have to serve our children, we have to serve, the church, we have to serve these things, and it comes from, so I'll look good in God's eyes, so I'll look good in my neighbor's eyes, so that I'm a good person, and all these ideas and stories, right? Which aren't coming from just a place of fulfillment and a place of, a place of reverence, right? It's like a reverence to energy. And that when I'm in when my energy is in absolute alignment, I would say, or an absolute softness, or just no attachments, no expectations, what does that look like?
It's a containerless energy.
What does that even look like? Because really, most of us have never seen it or experienced it, and that's what I was, this, I keep getting called forth to being the next level human, the future human that brings these codes to the earth right now of what it looks like to be operating from a future human capacity, where you say, like, we operate from a place of where we see everyone out of love and we share all things. Well, who's modeling that? And I get called to model some of these things, or figure them out along the way, or go my own journey for healing for the planet. And so what I was being called forth was let go of everything, and so that it was truly, there was nothing outside of me that I could be attached to, any expectations, any agenda, any validation, any identity. Could I be fully with all of me and only serve or only create from a place of my essence that was calling me forth? And so that was the journey I've been on since, when did I leave? A little over a year ago.
Yeah.
And so I called it my global citizen journey, and it was the name that kept dropping in was this journey of my aloneness. Which I remember, like, the human part of me was like, well, why would I need to go do that? Because I love being alone. I've done all my self-love work, etc. And there was something there that was like, oh no, there's this calling forth for you. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot to that journey. Yet what I'll say is, as I got to, there was so many times I wanted to just step into that old identity and go, I'll just offer this, I'll create this, I'll give that. And everything in me was like, you can't. It's almost like when you learn to be in your frequency, you can't go back, you try to go back to the frequency. It's like, I don't know how to even talk that. I don't know how to talk. Like Marci Lock, it was Marci Lock. Is like, now I'm Sundari, actually, and that's the spiritual name I received in the Himalayas, which is my soul's name.
Beautiful.
And so there was this, for me, service became me just being the greatest, highest light that I could be. And what I realized also is it's like in our journey of finding our identity. See, most people are trying to find their identity. I'm literally telling people, I've been asked this question a couple times just recently on stage in Utah, and they're asking about, they want to claim an identity. And of course we can see the value of going from a limiting belief identity, like I'm not enough, to saying like, yeah, I am a genius, I'm an expert, or I am a light being, or whatever it is. And I've evolved to where the only thing that feels good is to say I am. I am. Yeah. Because I am. Like I'm God, self, source, consciousness. And so when we drop the story around what is my purpose, what do I need to do, which we could say is I'm here to serve. Right. And yet we're serving based out of an idea that we need to give something and do something, because really our scared smaller self then feels worthy enough. And then there's an exchange of enough to receive, when truly, if I'm just sitting here in my vibration and frequency of absolute adoration and love for myself and all of humanity, I am spreading that frequency throughout the entire planet, that I am serving the world by holding that field of frequency and exemplifying that New Earth code. I would call that service, but it actually has nothing to do with me serving outside. It actually is about fully in fulfillment and my whole service with myself and all that I am, multidimensional, human. And by being the brightest light, I am in service. So when I say I'm called to serve, meaning like this is what my soul is calling me forth to. This is what is the most nourishing pull for my soul that's bringing me to the next evolution of my greater expression of this light. And the more light that I become in every cell, subparticle, atom of my body, through all the systems you talked about, causal, buddhic, emotional, physical body, everything, the more light I become, the more light I emit, which means more light I am exuding for the world and illuminating for the world. It also means I'm a bigger range and capacity to hold a field of light for the world, which means I am in service to the greater New Earth codes, New Earth human that's existing. So that's what I would call service.
That's beautiful. What a fantastic answer. I'm serious, because if you tracked all that, certainly, like if your life is about effort and making it happen in order to is achievement, then that might be even difficult to swallow or listen to, because it sounds like doing nothing is doing everything. Which it kind of is.
You went through that journey. I remember.
Totally. I used to get all my validation from coaching my clients and seeing them. And granted, like that brings a lot of joy into my life, but it's not the source of my joy. Yeah. It's not how I source my value anymore. Like that.
Thank you for that clarity for everyone.
Self-served. That was my.
It's I have to serve a client to be fulfilled. Is not being in power of your own joy. Yes.
With everybody now too. Like with clients, I see that there's an appropriate time for someone to transpose their energy upon you, almost like give away a little bit of their power, because they need to like get a gap to see, and then I'm very quick to be like, you have to take your power back, because don't give it to me, don't give it to anybody. You actually won't see what you actually get to see from there. And sometimes you need to go a little outside to get an example of what it means to resource oneself. Because I realized I had been giving from an empty cup for a long time. That's part of my like merger pattern or whatever. This is all these things we teach our clients. And I find that there's many people doing merger. Like it's a big pattern on our planet of just like trying to give all the time from nothing. You're so under-resourced. So to take back that thing, like you said, go into isolation a little bit. Funny enough, we were down in the jungle. I pulled 2 cards while we were down, angel cards for anybody who appreciates them. The first one was isolation, which is home for me, to be honest. Isolation is great for me. Like everyone goes to sit in 10-day silent meditations and freaks out. I sit in 10 days silent meditation. I'm like, hello, Lord. It's been such a long time since I've sat with you, and now I'm good. For me, it's actually like coming out and like joining humanity. That's been more of the challenge of being like, all right, I'm a light worker. I'll raise my hand and we'll do some light work together. But just back to the service point, I love it really is the definition of effortless service. That being is the service. And so it's like you're almost in most service relationships, there's someone you're serving, like a master that you're serving, and in this relationship you're both the master and the server.
Right. And that's it. And that's why I say in my definition and understanding of what I would use the human word for, or the languaging system of service, which again we can see it has all sorts of meanings for people, is that brings out my greatest dharma. Meaning, because I get called forth in it, and so it's like
define dharma just for the
so listeners. Dharma is your passion, dharma is your fulfillment, dharma is like your specific gift. So as you step into what calls you forth, that is actually for your greatest and highest fulfillment and satisfaction, and you discover that and you be that, you're just fulfilling you're fulfilling your purpose, your passion, your dharma. And so that's why in old India traditions and and a lot of stuff that I studied with Enlightened Masters when I was there, was it like kept popping up where it was like so I know that if I'm in service, I'm always taken care of, because actually who am I taking care of? Me, because I'm always in my what's calling me forth for my journey here that I chose, that is just bringing forth the next level of my understanding and my light and my love and adoration for all that I am, that can only then be transmuted to others, and that then fulfills me. So it's like service is always the way that we find our greatest passion, and so yet it comes from a very different energy. It comes from the energy of the highest light. And we could equate that if someone was like trying to wrap their brain around that. It's like if we say, when we live in that place of serve and sacrifice out of an idea or a story, well, hey, we're isn't humanness about helping other people and serving other people and doing that? And so we go, okay, well, I should do this and I have to do that. I need to do that. I should help these people. And it's coming from, again, like I'm afraid of what they're going to think, and this is what the church says I should do, this is what my neighbors expect, this is the image I have, etc. So we do those things, and it comes from a very low vibrational level of love. That's not actual love. It's literally low vibrational shitty love. It's like, I'm love with contingency. Because I have an expectation, or I want you to think this thing about me. It comes from a manipulation energy. Absolutely. It comes from a scared self energy. It comes from a I'm not enough and needing outside of myself, etc. energy. And yet when we come from this place of like fully honoring ourselves to be whole and complete and like do what feels good for me, and then I'm like, ooh, yep, like this is in alignment, this feels good, I feel, I can say yes to this because this feels good, then it is actually giving the highest vibration of love. So calling that forth, and so the journey of letting it all go for me to be completely with myself And it turned into my journey of aloneness became my journey with myself as I realized, well, I'm with this.
That's right.
I mean,
I love that.
this is really good.
Yeah, I like to shake my shoulders when I think about myself.
Who else would I want to be with?
Sure.
Yeah, and
oh, just real quick, Osho makes a really beautiful distinction of there's a big difference between aloneness and loneliness.
Yes.
Yeah, so like the loneliness is like the shadowy, and the aloneness could be very powerful and very inspiring and very creative,
it taught me
and
the most
all the
amazing
gorgeousness.
things.
Yeah,
it helped me find and discover all the deep imprinting multi-generationally, even in my epigenetics and my DNA from generations.
Wow.
Of that alone meant I was going to be attacked, abused, lost, and die.
Right to death. Yeah,
and
that's why I find aloneness so tied to. It's like your body just goes into basically dealing with your life and death situation.
And at the level of lifestyle that I created, obviously we had the magical manifestation mansion I got to let go of, got to let my kids that were full time with me move to be with their dad for the first time ever, 12 and 14 years old, and just all the things I was called to completely let go of: retreats, masterminds, clients, etc. Everything was to be fully with myself, with nothing outside of me as an attachment,
fully resourced,
and there was such a beautiful journey in that. And then what came was a whole nother level. Even though we teach these concepts, it's like click, new code drops in, new frequency, embodiment at another level, which we both witnessed each other go through, like so many levels and activations of
cosmic centric evolution.
Yes, and it was this whole other level of embodiment that I would have never even known was possible for me to experience, of a luscious love affair with myself, falling in love with myself, every inch of me, the divine union of the sacred masculine and feminine within me. So like in full divine union with myself, I could therefore see divine union beloveds everywhere, everything. And when I was in India, reminds me of, this goes a whole nother direction, which is always going to happen. I was in India, and I felt I got, there with the how beautifully the money system works. I literally was like, I can feed all the homeless people every day. So and they are kind of against it, and I just, for me, it felt really called to do whatever I could. And there's this blind woman that I was just drawn to, and I was like, how is she surviving? Because all the other ones can beg and they can see you, etc. She literally can't see anyone walking by, nothing. And I just got called to this woman, and I literally had this download, this understanding that I was I met my beloved in India. This old woman was my beloved, and from the point of I had just gone through all this in depth, I took myself through some ceremony and some activation, and that's when I had this came to complete neutrality with every human, every experience, complete divine union, beloved everywhere. And realized I was like, this woman is my beloved, and I started to see everyone as my beloved. Yet what I had this inkling to and this knowledge of was like, just as she's here, because I felt this strong call to make sure she was taken care of and gotten off the street. Not just, I'm here for a week and I'm just going to feed you all week. It was like, I felt the soul's code, the soul's contract and connection to make sure that I did more than the average person would do. And so I ended up finding a way that she would get put into a home and assisted with that. But I had this feeling of like, you know what, just as much as I'm here right now giving her food, and she's literally blind and on the street and can barely take care of herself, she at one point could have been my beloved that stepped into my world when I was crippled and on the street, and she had that contract for me to show up for me and support me in being able to step beyond that. And it just was like, seeing the world through those eyes where everything is divine and beautiful and love. And that's that part of like, this feels good, there's a reason, there's a greater, that fulfilled me so much because it was like a soul contract. And through my journey all over the world, what I found was like, as the universe it was surrender moment by moment. It was like, I got called to Kona Island and was like, cool, you're meant to activate codes here and do some root chakra work on the volcanic, stuff. Literally, and I had the place for like 10 days. And then the next day it's like, Kauai, you're supposed to go to Kauai. And I'm like, what the fuck? I just landed here. Okay. And I jump over to Kauai and find out a hurricane's on the way. I'm like, what the fuck? Yeah. Why, if I'm so tapped in, why did I end up in Thailand? Right. Like, why am I in Kauai right now? And the universe and spirit was like, because you're here to to hold the field and do the healing work here. And what I found was for myself, I got to be in the place where it would bring up for me aloneness, I'm not safe.
Yep.
So it's like my own healing work was present, which also did healing work for the planet. And what was funny was, as it all filtered out, so Kauai was where the hurricane was going to hit the most, and it brought up all this stuff for me, which was beautiful. By the end of when it actually hit, and then I'll jump back to India, by the end of when it actually hit, the place, it died down, barely hit Kauai. Where it hit the hardest was I was originally on a glass house, literally on the volcanic rock, right on the ocean.
Shit.
That's exactly where it hammered.
Shit.
I'm like, thank you, universe.
Yeah.
So there's this trusting, right, of like moment by moment
Always safe.
of surrendering and knowing, yeah, like I'm actually always taken care of. The universe is always holding me, taking care of all the details. My higher universal plan of my oversouls, etc., have planned out every single interaction, every single experience. So when I come from that place, again, everything is perfect.
Yeah.
Everything is
met
divine.
with a loving embrace.
Yeah, met with a loving embrace, and through all of our, oh wow, this feels intense.
Yep.
And this is all of it, you know. So
Life is fucking intense.
Yeah, and I mean, you brought that, or you know, where you took that before I veered off into a whole bunch of different fun places.
Yeah.
Was you know, that the beingness and the doingness, and people have a really like, how does that work? And I remember when this really dropped in for you. I remember I don't know where I was traveling or I was at, but I remember we had a coaching call, me, you, and Alon, and it was like you finally got it that you were just supposed to be
in it. Yeah.
And then I remember right after you said, "But Mars, how?"
Yeah.
And I laughed.
My
and
clients
like,
always do that too.
I was like, "Did you catch what you just said?"
Yeah.
And you're like, "Ah, there it is again."
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how to do
be,
it.
Yeah. How to do being.
Yeah.
Yeah. Doobie doobie doo.
Yeah. Yeah.
There that goes.
Yeah.
I'm also trying to figure out how to hold the microphone right now.
Well,
Yeah, I find that's so it's always fun when you're a coach and you've done things a certain amount of times where you realize the predictable nature of a human.
yeah.
And that's just one of those things. I find that beingness intensely, if you're looking at it, you grapple with it for about 4 to 6 months before the mind gives up some kind of attachment, and it's like, wait a second, I could just sit here and do nothing.
Yeah.
And because from a doing place of analyzing that, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And you freak out because, again, life has been about achievement, making things happen, working really hard, sacrificing yourself. And for as much as I knew that was going to be the rest of my life, and there was no even question about that.
Yeah.
So when the idea of not doing, even though it made like a lot of sense to me, I had like no practical usage whatsoever because it's not practical at all.
Yeah.
Like you have to sit and trust, but it's like you know, like you said, it's very hard to do when you don't love yourself.
Yeah.
Because you don't trust yourself, and it's not even trust that. It's like trusting all of it, loving all of it, that it is being provided and shown to you and experienced the perfect way. It could not be any other way. And if you don't really have experience in like really trusting and living in that state, because it does feel like a free fall. You're gonna try to grasp at straws and reach for the shoreline, so to speak, and try to get yourself out of what seems like drowning, even though you're really swimming. You know, that's very beautiful.
Well, I think you can bring this. I mean, because this is the ship I saw. Like, I got to work with you, Alon, and I got to work with a lot of guys who were super successful.
Yep.
And they knew how to do. And they were doing it in like, I got to keep this up. There was like a level of force or fight that was there. And it was like learning to open up the feminine and being in flow and trusting that.
Feeling
things. And you can, when you break it down and you look at the practicality of it, or try to bring practicality, the thing that I see can assist people is when they understand, you know, because if you were sitting here from outside view and they're just watching us going, so you're saying just to be, but there's no logic to it. And so why would I do that other than you're telling me to just, you know, it's part of my ascension journey to like let go of everything and just be okay being. It's like, well, in this construct of consciousness, there's no appeal to that. And what when we can understand is it's actually against our human nature. It's against our divine nature. Our divine nature, the human stuff is what we were taught, is that these programs, that it's learned behavior, that we need to make something of ourselves and should be doing and accomplishing, etc., to validate that we're enough and that we're adding to society and etc. And it's all coming from a running around with your head cut off energy, a trying energy, a fighting energy, I'm scared, I'm not enough energy, which when you understand and you can see the bigger picture of energy, that whatever you put energy into, you receive. You manifest whatever you vibrate. When you can break that down to go, okay, so does it really make sense to to do something from force and fight and struggle and the do energy. I got to get this done. I got to have the structure. I got to instead of when you actually can sit with it and allow what drops in that was bigger than you ever could have seen because you're in flow. So it's kind of like swimming upstream, or letting go and letting the stream take you down into this gorgeous lake pond, moves you down around the corner to this massive island that is built directly like for you with all the sex toys.
Dildos everywhere.
I say sex toys just because I've been traveling the world.
That's right.
And it was like the funny story I told you about how on the side note, as I got called to let go of everything that had any attachments or expectations or anything outside of me that created I love this thing, I have an attachment to this thing. I think I told you, I actually messaged you, we're so tight. You had voxed me and was like, hey Mars, I know you left, just checking in. And I had just come out of the grocery store and I'd only been there for like 2 days. Just before I left, I'd gotten initiated as a Swami. I finished my priestess initiations. I got all these divine, beautiful blessings, right? This next level of activation. And I got given this beautiful mala that represented being initiated as a Swami. And I'm in the grocery store and I bent down to grab something and the mala got caught on my little cart thing and it just shattered. Yeah. And I literally in the grocery store aisle, I dropped. And like everyone's speaking different language. I'm on the floor. I'm crying. I'm trying to pick up all the mala beads. I was just like, and I came out of the store and then got your box. Like, hey Mars, I just was feeling you, which you always feel me.
Always.
So
funny.
And that night I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna do some self-loving time because just gonna be with myself. And I like plugged in my magic wand and it like fried out the circuits, fried out my magic wand, which I was 2 days into my journey, and fried out all the circuits in this little cottage I was up in the country at night.
You should say it slower so that people know that you're putting the magic wand in quotes.
The magic wand. Which I've upgraded.
From the sex island that you float to because you let go of everything. Yeah.
The funny thing was that the moment that happened, I was like, no, like there was the part of me that was like, are you kidding me?
Cassandra!
2 days into my journey and my sex toy just got destroyed. And then I caught it and was like, yes, I was attached. I can see it now. I was attached.
Thank you, Lord, for the next lesson.
Yeah, so as we what I mean by you get taken to the island that has everything that you desire and all of like your greatest fulfillment to be found. That you wouldn't have even known was there because you're trying to swim upstream because where you have to go. Yep. So we can bring some understanding to it. And there's as you experience it, it's like you and I have experienced it. It's like, wow, I can't go back to fighting anymore. Like, ooh, like that doesn't feel good. And so it's surrendering to deeper and deeper levels of knowing if I am a divine being, like I am literally a magical divine being that is light and I'm worthy of everything. I'm literally a sovereign master creator that based on what I choose to think and feel and see, etc., I can experience whatever I want. Where would there ever be a story that if just sitting here being is not enough? Yeah. And that's why you look at these, gurus in India and all over the world where there's like their being. And this is where I said their frequency alone and their embodiment of that level of self-love and love for humanity. And they're literally just holding a field of love. If someone could ask them any question, bring anything to them, and it's just pure divine love, that shifts the planet.
Writing the Akashic from your seat.
Right.
Yeah, so I want to, if I can give some malleability to some of you guys listening about this, because I read a case study and I thought I put it together so beautifully, like how this all works. Because science is actually catching on to this idea that there's like a storehouse of information that can't be seen. Field. Yeah, exactly, quantum field and spiritual circles, like it's called the Akashic. And so I read this case study and I'm finding myself saying it a lot because I love the picture of it. There's a few things like... do you listen to Chiron channel ever?
Yep.
Really beautiful. Yep. Okay, I won't go into that because that's a whole other conversation. Maybe we'll come back to that one. But so there was this case study I read where you'll have like all these labs around the planet trying to synthesize a protein of some kind, like pharmaceutical labs trying to synthesize a protein. When they figure out how protein's synthesized, the protein bends like a piece of paper, like folds. And the funny part about the protein is it always folds exactly the same way. That's what makes it that protein. Yeah. Now, when they try to figure out what's giving it the instructions to fold that way, they used to think that was the DNA. But the DNA doesn't have any blueprints in it at all, which is really good news for all of us because that means none of us are locked into any particular thing like they thought that we used to be. and our understanding of DNA is changing very rapidly now, and so that's kind of the thing. So even science theorizes that there is a field in which the energy and information is stored, and that they're sort of pulling it out of the field, and that's what's giving the protein this information to fold it this particular way. So here's what's really interesting about all this. So you'll have, like, let's say 10 different labs around the planet all trying to figure out how to synthesize this protein. And when one remembers it, because it's really not being discovered, how can we discover anything that's not already God, right? So it can only be a remembrance. So once one lab remembers how to synthesize the protein within a short period of time, all the labs, independently of each other, without any communication sent between them, will all figure out how to synthesize that. So what does that tell you about this Akashic record, this storehouse of information, is that once something is remembered, by the way, we see this with extreme sport athletes all the time. Bannister breaks a 4-minute mile within a few years. 12-year-old boys are doing it. Same thing with, like, Tony Hawk doing a 900 on a skateboard. Within a few years, everyone's doing it. The moment it's seen,
remembered,
it's seen. The Akashic has the information. So what it means is, like, when the people who are sitting at the apex, the precipice of any evolution, whether it's physical, spiritual, energetic, food, nutrition, it doesn't really matter. The people who are right at the apex of evolution, which I believe is the work that we're doing, is right at that apex of evolution, or what these swamis and gurus are sitting there doing, if you call it that, so to speak, is their beingness is literally writing new grooves, remembering energy into the Akashic, and then it becomes more, call it, bioavailable for the entire planet. So literally by being your work, I was going to say doing, but by being your work, by feeling new frequencies, by allowing for things to move through your system, by allowing yourself to evolve, by allowing, you're essentially writing the code for the future of all humanity. So when you see those gurus who are old and sitting there in, like, what looks like diapers with, like, long hair, they're literally writing the code for the evolutionary, way that really we're all going to be spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally, and really what becomes available. That's amazing.
We all also have the ancient wisdom within our bodies. Like, we've learned, we've, from the time we're born, and, the programs that we have and the collective conditioning, we shut down all the ancient wisdom coming forth within our bodies, awakening all of the DNA that we have. You tapped in the Akashic record, we have the quantum field to know that the information is always there and available. I was actually just talking about this prior to coming here, was just that, it's like tapping into the quantum field. In fact, as we talked about, I told you how after our experience in Colombia, I believe, was when, it might have been the time before, when I took my boys. I took my boys to do Aya when they were 9 and 12 years old. And so it was the year before I took you and Alon and the group of people. But when I went back and did it with my boys, I was down in the Maloka having this, like, still an experience. And all of a sudden I was like, where are my boys? And I just asked for the information in the quantum field, and I saw this vision of them sitting up in the kitchen, Danya Marta and Carolina. They were being fed, and they were talking, and I saw what they were eating. I heard their conversation, and I was like, okay, they're good. And I went back into my experience. Then a couple hours later, because you know how deep I go with medicine.
A couple hours meaning like a couple of months later in my experience. And
I was like, where are my boys? Because it was like, now it was dark down there, and I'm like, and I was, and then I saw them. They were in, where we were staying, and they were on the bed, and they were talking, and I just heard the whole conversation. I'm like, cool, they're good. So then when I came out of the sacred space and the sacred grounds, and was sitting in the kitchen with my boys, and they were, something showed up where they asked me, or I said, I know. I said, I know. And they're like, how do you, I asked, they said something about their experience. I said, I know that. And I said, how do you know? And I said, well, earlier, you were sitting here, you were eating this, you said that, you da-da-da-da-da, and they were like, their jaws just dropped. They're like, Mom, are you psychic? And at the time, I said, no, I'm not psychic. I just asked the quantum field, and I received the information. Now I know that, of course, I am psychic, because we all have the ability to open up these multidimensional capabilities in our DNA, and I've awakened my third eye and decalcified my pineal gland. You have a dick in your brain. I mean, we can go into that. That was like our very first
How many times am I going to tell you people about the dick in my brain?
I think I'm the only one who brings it up.
No,
because I know
I recently told some people about it. Because once you're like orbiting me again, I'm like, we're going to be talking about the dick in my brain soon.
Marci knows about
it. And then I'm like, how did I get that dick in my brain? Yeah, I got to remember.
Vipassana is when you discovered it. Yeah, so it's like, I recognize now, of course, I have these capabilities, but at the time, even back then, I didn't, I saw it only as I asked the quantum field, And the information's there. It's available to us. So it's like about everything. So when we start to also ask the right questions, you know, and then we I did a training recently that channeled through me for my Best Life Tribe, where it was like, you know, it's like we ask the questions, and we tend to ask questions that are structural based, masculine based, that are linear. About, and that are also about, you know, success based, validation based, etc. And it's like, what do I need to do? What's this going to look like? How do I think it through? How do I plan? And like, instead of the questions of like, you know, what is the most, you know, yearning to my soul? Like, what is the most fulfilling to my soul? What would bring me the greatest joy? Like, how do I want to feel? How do I want other people to feel around me by what I'm exuding in frequency? When we begin to ask things that actually are tapping into Akashic records, quantum field, you know, our DNA awakening, and that we can literally command and demand this the awakening of these DNAs and the imprinting within ourselves to be light and to utilize the ascended masters and all the things that we have that are right there available to us that we just haven't seen. And it's kind of just like, you know, like sun gazing. We know what sun gazing can do for you, but most people, when I first understood sun gazing, I found it hilarious that I'd go to the beach to sun gaze, and I'd be using this portal and this experience, and I'd see all these people just walking along the beach, walking past, and it was like, they have no idea. Oh my God, they have no idea that it's right there. And they, at this time, they can utilize this for this. Information into you. And it was like, it represented awakening. It represented, you know, if you will, that, like you talked about awakening and growing up, or we talked about it prior, like the combination of that, of like what's actually available to us that most people are walking around and don't know. So you don't know that you have all this ability to flow with life. Dis-ease, dysfunction is out of ease with life. To bring that up because we're out of flow. So if you think about the, you know, we're so shut down in our systems. That's why a nervous system, an overactive nervous system, an overwhelmed nervous system is what you would say is we've labeled as ego. Right. But it's just us not relaxed into our system, into our beingness, into the full experience of our human vessel and all the emotions it gets to feel and experience it gets to feel, as well as the full connection to all that we are beyond this vessel.
While you're talking, I realized, well, I've had a lot of things come through. Of course. The first is like, I keep getting this image of like, you know, imagine like a company or like a small tribe of a bunch of satisfied people, like satisfied customers. But if like everybody was satisfied, like what kind of world would that be? Or what kind of school would that be? Or what kind of household would that be? We're not satisfied, but we're not satisfied because we're not doing what satisfies us. We're not being what satisfies us. The other thing that started coming through, a lot of things came through. So I just want to give a few more examples of what you said about like the pineal gland decalcified and whatnot. We're down in the jungle, and this happens to me a lot too. I get extremely psychic. Well, we had this kind of ongoing joke. One of my clients had done about 40 ceremonies before he'd come down to Colombia. And just for those of you guys who are interested in coming with us, like after day one, he said, this is the most incredible experience of my entire life.
Well, you were like, oh yeah. Marci, I've done
this.
All these different ways. I'm like,
Well, it's funny because here you bring up something that lets you connect to the field in such a strong way. And when you add structure to it, you actually almost like shrink the beam of energy that could come through versus just kind of like sitting there and expanding and see what you can do. So it's like the unstructuredness gives it structure in a weird way. The ongoing joke was we would, like a group of us would just call him. And then he would show up in under 10 minutes. So we had this like running joke the whole time. We're like, we'll see you in 10 minutes. Like no matter when he would go, and he would just like randomly show up. Like he'd be like, I'm gone for the night, or I'm gonna go to bed. We'd be like, we need him for something. And his name was Rich. We'd be like, Rich! And Rich would just show up within 10 minutes every time. So on the last day, I watched Rich walking out of the forest with this bamboo stick. And I immediately know. I'm like, oh shit, that's not a bamboo stick. I'm like, it chose him. It's an entity. Like, it's an energy field. I'm like, it chose him. And it wasn't quite clear what it was, but I knew that it chose him. And I'm watching him walk away, and I start getting images of how he's supposed to use it to amplify his own field. And the stick tells me, my name is Daniel. Like, just like that. So I yell to him, I'm like, it's Daniel! Like that. Like in my fucking, experience. It's Daniel! And I see that he didn't hear me, so I try to say it again. I'm like, it's Daniel! Still doesn't hear me. So the next day, I see him walking around with it again. And I said, did you hear what I said yesterday? Because I was like compelled to tell him. I'm like, I gotta tell you, like, this stick is not a fucking stick. I kept telling him, I'm like, do not leave it here. It's supposed to go home with you. I'm like, I know it's weird. Take it home with you. And he goes, da-da-da. I tell him again. I'm like, no. I'm like, it chose you. I'm like, its name is Daniel. And he looks at me like this. He goes, why did you say that name? I said, I didn't say that name. it told me its name.
Yeah.
And he goes, do you know what my middle name is? I said, no. He goes, my middle name is Daniel. What the fuck are the chances of that, you know? So then you start taking what I was saying a little bit more seriously. And then that kind of stuff happens a lot to me down there. I started getting like Marci, a lot of downloads for people, very tapped in for people. So it's very interesting. And there was one other thing that you had mentioned, but it's kind of slipped away a little bit now. I'm sure it'll come back in again. Yeah, I find myself, the more I let go, the more trust there is, the more the silly things that come into your experience that seem like are trivial, suddenly you get almost like a feeling of truth within your body.
Yeah.
Ooh, see?
Check that out.
And God said, let there be light. I was waiting for that to happen.
That was epic.
So yeah, now I have found that once you get past those questions of how do I be, what you're really asking is, you haven't felt your alignment yet. Oh, this is what I wanted to say. This kind of goes along with this too. Like, I feel like I was just born.
Yeah.
And here's the reason why. I have lived in this body, multiple lifetimes. I kind of had this premonition that we keep thinking like, oh, this body, one lifetime. Bullshit. Like, I mean, lifetimes I've lived in this freaking body, like 5 or 6 that I can count right now, of seriously transitional places where I don't recognize the person that was there before. So if I don't recognize the person before, maybe I'm in the same meat suit, which is ever evolving, ever changing, constantly looking different. Even this meat suit, I've already experienced 5 or 6 lifetimes. My point is, though, this year was the first time I can authentically say this, that I, what Andrew calls relaxed connection with another human being. I've never experienced that before. I've experienced connection before, but not relaxed, open-hearted, authentic connection with another human being, with just, exactly, like drink that in. And I can go back there and experience it with people, and I realize that is the medicine. That is the medicine. And I think we all long for that. So for me, it's like, I'm about a year old with even experiencing any sort of real human relaxed connection with somebody else. So I'm like, what have I been doing the last few years? Hiding, scared, nervous, anxious, all the things. Like, I haven't really been here.
Well, we haven't actually...
Sparse moments of being here.
Yeah, I say that, like, as I do different ceremonies and activations of things, there's been a calling in the divine imprinting of unconditional love.
Yes.
Because we actually, even as we, like you said, you could say you've experienced love throughout your life, but it's been love based on our human experience, with attachments, expectations, conditionality, all the things that we've had. So have we truly ever experienced absolute divine unconditional love, absolute, radical self and acceptance for all people? Have we ever experienced absolute peace? And it's Sadhu Guru who says, we put peace as our last priority. And it's like, well, really, if I'm not at peace, I couldn't sit here and enjoy a conversation. I couldn't sit and enjoy a meal. And you think about it, most people, how do you sit and eat? It's like hurry and shovel the food in, or alcohol, it's drugs. Like whatever. It's a thing to do. Is it relaxed? I mean, and so there's been this whole other level of discovery and embodiment. So it's like we become more and more reborn the more we become remembered, because we actually, so going back to even Force or Flow, it's like we actually are starting to operate from our divinity, our natural state, which is to be just here in like this moment in curiosity and wonderment and excitement and just play and pleasure and allowing there to be an upgraded frequency or experience of relaxing into everything, being fully with everything, presence. And most of us can't even be present with our breath. Our breath is very high pitched and and that's again a reflection of the overstimulated nervous system, which you would just call ego, instead of I'm actually relaxed and I'm fully in relaxed. So I love that you phrase it or bring it in that way, that it's like we're experiencing life anew. And we've seen, because we both have now, I obviously got to take you to Colombia now, that with you guys taking people as well, and that being a part of what we share with people is sacred sacrament, and these earth elements that are intelligence, that know how exactly to bring forth within our systems what is there that gets to be revealed, healed, and loved, and to reconnect to God, source consciousness, and all that. And in seeing that beautiful journey, there's, in my retreat that I just had when I saw you last here in California, I saw this individual also when I was in Utah, and he was like, he literally claimed it as, he's like, I'm reborn. like I'm reborn, like I'm 2 days old now.
Yes.
You know, and when I saw him, he's like, I'm only 2 weeks old now.
Yeah.
And he's like, and every single day, it's like, I remember we were having this experience, and I was like experiencing food and like every single bite. So my new language that comes through, like you could call it alien language, it's actually my natural language, is orgasm noises.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, literally every bite of food, I'm so in sensuality and pleasure and being with. I would like take a bite of food and I'd literally be with it for like 5 minutes. I'm like, oh, and I'm just like, wow, and just in taking in all the resources that created this food and like just feeling it in my system. And so it's like, can you experience everything with that level of seeing the good, the God, the magic, the miracles, the abundance of it, the all that it is. That's like right. Every particle, cell, subparticle, every bit of its creation, and all the things that came together. And we're this is just what we're experiencing as we're eating, you know. And I remember he actually standing in front of me. He was like, I'm just watching Marci, and I'm taking in new, like I'm literally, my brain's trying to reconfigure to like, that's actually what's possible being human.
Yes.
I can actually experience the human experience through that, like in that way. It can be a completely different, you know, construct or reframe or whatever than whatever I ever took on before, that I can have a luscious orgasmic experience with food and like every bite, and be in that much appreciation, and for every touch and every interaction with people and everything. And this is what I mean by just in fulfillment. That's right. Right? And that we're in such fulfillment that there's nothing actually missing or lacking. Yeah. If I can be in that much bliss and joy, the VIP client I did the other day in Utah, we did through our journey, it's like whatever came through. And we ended up, what we had in the house was like, there was some tomato soup and some strawberries. So we had like, tomato soup and strawberries. And when she was like, I never knew tomato soup could be so good. it's like when you're present, it's incredible. Yeah. The simplicity, the all the things that we add to everything, the layers we add to everything, the stories, the challenge, the hardship, the frequency, the ideas, etc. And really, it can be as simple as us, loving each of those layers and falling back into and relaxing with each one. And then it's okay for that layer, that feeling to exist. Can we really be all of that? And that is just being with all of it.
Usually when I share about you to other people, I say, you just have to be around her. Like, she can talk and it's going to be mesmerizing and she'll do all her things. And you might like her, dislike her. You might think she's talking too fast. You might think she's cursing too much. You might be talking about her pussy too much. Who knows? Yeah. Who knows? She'll do all the things, But like, I always say, but watching you be you was probably like the best lesson of being around you, was just watching you, how you operate. I've said this many times before, and I have no problem saying it again. You're one of the highest integrity people I've ever met, and you live it. And I believe I am a very high integrity person. Yeah. And I'm not saying it's a fucking competition by any stretch. Yeah. But I know how you live, and I like when Marci says she flows with life. I've never seen anybody else do it with more grace, and that's like one of the biggest compliments I could give another human being / alien / goddess / Swamiji and all the rest of it, right? / yeah. And I receive that. And I truly mean that, yeah. I truly mean that. I appreciate that, and I receive that. Thank you. And because I do find that's the code. It's like that, you're watching someone receive from the Akashic, be those things. I feel like I'm that for my clients as well. Yeah. And something I certainly learned from you about being in Colombia was self-expression. Won't get into the whole why of that, but just like bigger than what we imagine it gets to be. And when I got down there, I'm sure there's actually a client of mine listening here. She could probably chime in. I find myself freeing up in new ways, and I actually feel like that's what I came back with. What I came back with from this experience, we were just down in the jungle for a week, and jungle in the week is like 6 months of I forget it. It's like decades worth of work. We equate
it to doing a week of that work is that play, that discovery is like doing 20 years of normal surface processing, kind of what most people would do as a conscious work. Yeah. We do in...
I estimate about 20 to 30 years of therapy.
That's been my experience every time people are
ceremony.
Like,
yes. And that's just like the mental aspect of it. Forget the energies and frequencies that come through that are lifetimes worth of generations and
that's just
ancestral.
Trying to put some sort of framework on it. Yes.
Impossible. Mm-hmm. And I feel so uprated. I came back with anxiety, not because I was scared of the world, because my heart felt so open. There was so much moving through that my nervous system actually didn't know what to do with it. So then I found old patterns, just trying to come in to try to deal with the anxiety, like the sadness and the anger that really, I have just found there's been sadness in me for a very long time, and the protector showed up as anger.
Yeah.
So I was always working on the anger instead of working on the sadness, and I kind of find that's true now for everybody. Like you said, aloneness is really tied to death. Like why is it that the worst thing we do in prison to people is put them by themselves?
In solitude.
Yeah, solitary is the worst thing you do, because then you're facing your own mortality in there, because humans, we need connection. Yeah. And the thing is, what we think we need is connection. What we're really looking for is restful connection, and we don't get that. It's like we're in connection while our nervous system is overactive, like you kind of pointed to, and that is really troubling for many of us, because we're like, hey, I'm doing all the things that feel so natural to me, which is connecting with people, and then you find yourself out with people, and then you feel drained and under resourced, and it's like, because it wasn't restful. Everyone's nervous systems are freaking out and trying to manipulate other nervous systems to try to get their needs met.
Yeah, well, they have an attachment.
Yeah.
Right? They have
I need you. Yeah, I need you for something. Yeah.
Exactly.
And you got to see me this way, and I got to receive love this way, and all these freaking crazy rules. And you were talking, and it's funny, when I'm around you, I always notice like language things, right? You said conditional love, and it's funny because that's like love with conditions, but the reality is we're conditioned to believe about love a certain way. Like there is a conditioning of which love is seen through a certain lens on this planet, and it's such a small lens. It is,
because love is the most natural thing that exists, because love is all things, and love is creation energy, which created all things. And yet when we have been domesticated. We've been domesticated. I remember doing a whole show on this, and Gavin the Great was in a little bit of it with me, of just that we become domesticated to see love through a if and when. If you do that, then I'll love you. When that happens, then I'm enough, etc. Like love myself. It is based off of a conditionality. Yeah. So you really, it's like even us getting to hang out. I mean, there's like, what did I say when I got in here? I was like, I could just sit here and just be with you. You had a couple things to focus on from it. I was like, babes, I'm so happy to just be with you. There's no attachment, no expectation, no agenda. And we ended up just deciding to turn this on because it just was like, it felt good. We were just like chatting away, and we go super deep and all over the place, and it felt good. There's no need, there's no have to's, there's no shoulds. There's just simply like holding a field of just like, and can you also allow yourself to be to choose to say yes to that which feels good to you.
That's right.
So it's like that is also a whole level of worthiness codes, luxury codes. When I taught a whole training the other day, they asked me to teach on money medicine, and I always laugh when it's funny when people want me to teach about money from being like $1 million coach and all these other things. Was like it coming from a place of it has nothing to do with money. It's all a reflection of your inability to receive.
That's right.
And so coming from a place of just a whole other permission slip of loving yourself so much that you can relax into this place of being without anything to do or to say or to see or to be, and be with the people that, and so to call in, like, I only experience being with my divine besties, my soul companions, my allies of light who choose to live and operate from this place, and I can hold that field for all the other individuals that experience me. Is that to be in a place of like, I mean, you said it earlier when you said someone might listen to me and I might trigger the fuck out of them. And I might talk about my pussy. And I might talk about orgasms or sex. I mean, coming from the journey I did, if someone heard that the context of like being raised Mormon, LDS, really strict religion where you couldn't even say the word masturbation. You were shamed for wearing a tank top and like having sexual abuse and having all those things to go the journey. A guy called me the other day at this, after our retreat, we were held to do we did a 3-day ceremony with grandmother, grandfather, and Pachuma. And it's like I was called forth to express orgasmically, like in which you saw in the jungles in Colombia, and which called forth everyone to feel the freedom of their fullest expression, to allow that level of sensuality in their system, pleasure in their system, like feeling their whole body activated with the universe, that level of connection and pleasure with the universe, which isn't just through my pussy or penis, it's not just through a private part that then I can feel this pleasure. It's actually a full body cosmic expression. And I got called to be that literally I felt the whole room, the whole experience, just then they up level to their greatest next expression with experience then creates a new reference point. And after this gentleman said to me, I've never seen an orgasm at this before, I guess, and it was like a new word. He's like, I feel like you're an orgasmethist. I'm like, well, that's actually,
orgasmethist.
yeah. I was like, well, okay, that's another one
Sure.
that you could call me. You know, add that to the list of whatever you call me. Yet, if someone might have understood coming from someone who might be triggered by that, and we know that obviously it's just a reflection of what they get to heal and love within, or allow their fullest expression or their fullest pleasure, etc. Yet when they can come from a place of going, oh, someone with the journey of shaming themselves for sex, not being worthy of, not worthy of pleasure, you know, all these stories and beliefs and all this, you know, insecurity with the masculine. And that's why I got called to do my own healing with the divine feminine and masculine within, that I could fully be in divine union from without. And that my entire world is like, I love the divine masculine. I love being supported by the divine masculine and being in that space when they can go, oh, someone with the journey, it's like someone who is overweight and they hate someone who's skinny.
Yeah.
But then when they go, oh, they were once overweight. And I remember when I first started as a body mind mentor on TV years ago, as you know, that I did that journey too. You know, I remember people, when I shared my pictures of right after I had Sky or Gavin, I was like 70 pounds overweight. Yeah. Did you ever see those pictures?
You told me, yeah. I don't think I've actually
seen
the post.
They're so sexy.
Yeah.
And to go from that to I was shredded in 90 days.
Yeah.
And when they said, I would have never believed you could have been that if I didn't see the pictures. And so it was another level I was called to vulnerability to share, but it came from standing in my alignment with my body and honoring and loving my vessel and taking care of it as a level of self-love and a level of like seeing it as a divine temple, came from the journey of fighting it.
Yeah.
You know, and so no matter, it's like being this full expression of ourselves, whether we trigger people or, you know, all of it that you were even just sharing. It's like all of that is to be all of who we are, to be all of humanness. So, you know, that is the greatest thing that we can do for anyone, is let go of all that and be all of it.
I want to also like relay to everybody who's listening. It's like, no matter where you are, what level you are, I don't care if you're the most ascended master on the planet. There's distortions at every single level, because there's always a higher vantage point, whether someone's experienced it yet or not, and that will continue to happen. People will be greater than anything we've ever seen on this planet, many times over again. Things that will awe us, and
just as we always are, right?
Show the multidimensionality of things, and part of that is understanding, kind of giving yourself a break, like. You know, 2016 through 2018, I've been in the best shape of my entire life. Found it very easy to be there. Yeah. My wife got pregnant. I am a very sensitive person. I took on a lot of her stuff with her, and I started having like a lot of her side effects. Suddenly, I'm like holding on to some weight, you know, and like still working my ass off, still like you know, and then again like starting to work my ass off, like eating the same way. And I've been sitting now for almost a year. So it was like last April. Like we came back from this trip. I took these shots for my friend Eric. He was actually on a previous show that's actually live right now, or two shows ago. And I took like model shots for him because I'm fucking shredded in this thing. And then suddenly I'm just like not, you know, and it was this very interesting thing. So I've kind of been like dealing with that again, because it's like hit some part in my system. Some distortions come through. Don't love yourself. System starts trying to protect itself, hold on to things. And now it's been this like year-long journey to like love myself even greater. So it doesn't mean like I don't love myself anymore, like I stopped loving myself or whatever it is, but like something hit my system and like there I go again. And it's not like I've gained massive amount. We're talking like 6 to 7 pounds, but like a year ago I would have been like, and God said, and then like in a day or two it'd just be like shredded again. And now I'm like I can't seem to get rid of that. Now I know well enough that it's not food. I know well enough that it's not my workouts. I just know that it's like something that I'm still working through my system. And you loving when you first said you look more human than ever, my holy human thought was like, oh, am I chubbier? Yeah. Hold on, let me check. God damn it, where's my 8-pack?
And because you've seen, you saw, I mean, we both went that journey.
It's a radiance, is really what it is. It's like
it's funny though that my human thought would be like, I'm more human than my chubbier.
Isn't that so funny, right? But here's the thing: it's like you're wearing less mask is the best way I can say it. And I think like, you know, whether you're a man or a woman, and it's like you're wearing makeup or not. Like I see people like my sister-in-law has been doing Landmark for like the last almost a year now, and it's like massive shifts. And I saw her, and yesterday I said, you know, you look different. And she goes, I'm not wearing makeup. Like that's where she went, and I'm like, that's not what I mean. That's true, and that's not what I mean, right? It's like I could see like there's an energetic output.
You feel it.
Absolutely. I actually always sense it in people's the frequency of their voice. I can feel like they go up an octave or down an octave, and I'm like, oh, you don't sound
How many
the
times
same.
have you told me that my voice has changed?
It's one of my favorite things.
So many. You're like, Marsh, your voice has changed.
It's the first thing I notice. I'm like, oh, your voice changed. Yeah. And I feel the same way now, too.
Yeah.
And it's fun because, when you've shifted, it's like being a musician, just playing different musical notes. So I can find myself talking really, really fast, blah, 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 and then I realize, okay, I'm out in the ethers, I'm playing in the field, I'm actually receiving, because I speed up when I have access up here. And then I'm like, oh, it's not grounded, and I like come back into my system, and then there's a natural syncopation, and it slows down, and I can start, reorganizing from within. Even now, like before we had this conversation, Marci came here, and I was actually in the middle of something that like alarmed me, and it was like scaring my system, so I didn't want to start the interview in that state. I want to just like help my system again. Like
let it go. Yeah, like we don't even have to.
In the past, I would have done it anyway, and I wouldn't have had resource. And then now I have enough patience to be like, well, I'm gonna feel through it first, and we're gonna sit here, and we're gonna hang out. I'm gonna hang out these parts, and even while we've been here, it's been really good medicine for me. I've just hung out with my system and let it move things through, and it's been great because I've actually received a lot just because I'm always around you receiving. So. My tendency at this point in time would be to ask you what's next, but I know that doesn't matter.
Well, that's one thing I want to bring to context that you were bringing in was that, like you said, no matter where you're at in your journey, the more that we continue to learn. You and I have been talking about how the more we've evolved and the more sensitive we've become. Like the more I feel everything, the more and which is a gift for what I'm healing for the planet. What I'm experiencing, all these things. And so there's still, even the fact that I just shared, like, again, it's like pure transparency. There's nothing to hide. There's nothing to prove. That the first thought for me when you said, this is a compliment, Mars. You look more human than ever.
Yeah.
It's because we also go the journey of, I went that journey being like ripped and shredded all the time to then like I was questioning in India being with these gurus. Well, if being in alignment and you're loving yourself fully is taking care of your body, how does that work? And you get asked to drop all stories.
That's right.
Right? And that it actually has nothing to do with my body. So it's like, can we also then get in the space where it's like I can love myself no matter what my body looks like, no matter what my bank account says, no matter what I'm experiencing, and let go of any attachment outside of me for my peace and my joy and my fulfillment. And even I notice the same thing is like, I'm like, there can be so many things I'm channeling in, and then I can go, oh, like, see, that can even be, there's so much I have to share. When I first started doing TV years ago, it was like I talked
just trying to get it all
so
out
fast because it was like I had so much to give, to serve.
Yeah.
And see, that's still coming from a place of like I've got to prove, or I've got to
see me
instead of like just knowing if I actually slow down and I can share what is here in the most present, you feel the frequency.
Yeah.
So even as we're talking a lot of things that some people might have no idea what we're talking about and never heard these words before, and what does that mean? I sometimes be like, what do you mean by activation? What do you mean by codes? What are you talking about when you say these things? It's the fact that we can feel a frequency, and so we get to continue to have these when you can feel what's happening underneath in your system, because on the surface, and especially when we become so good at it becoming our norm and validating the stories, it's like we can be holding the field and doing all these things and we think, oh, I'm totally bliss and peace and flow, but underneath there still can be some things running, like a program running of like, oh my gosh, it's got to look this way, and this makes me, again, those stories come in, which we're experiencing at the beginning, and it reminds me of I remember a conversation you and I and Alon had when you guys had a launch or something happening, and Alon was like, yeah, I did morning routine, I'm totally feeling awesome, I'm stoked, I'm excited, and something told me, I could feel his system was like
scared. His
system was not excited, his system it wasn't what he was speaking, his words were, and I said, okay, sweetie, just hang out for a minute, I do, okay, baby, and I just feel into your body for a moment and feel what's really going on. And I remember he sat there for like a minute in complete silence. I don't know if you remember this conversation, because I'm sure we did it all of us because we coached together. And just where he was like, well, actually what's there is I'm nervous. Yeah. I'm afraid it's not going to work, that it's going to fail, and etc. So it's like that was, and this is the practice of us being even more with ourselves, allowing even more space to just be and contemplate and fully feel, instead of running from or feeling on a very surface level.
Yeah.
As I know you and I both practice really feeling, because it's like if I could be with somebody and I could notice a tiny trigger and be like, oh, I notice I feel sad.
Yeah.
But it's like, am I actually really, is my body language, is everything actually feeling the sadness? Am I feeling your sadness, or I just take that in on a very small scale?
Right.
Oh, I'm just gonna
The protector
compartmentalize
comes and, like, squashes it right away. Yeah.
And so just knowing that there's this, as you talked about, you know, your sister-in-law and feeling her frequency. When I first came to San Diego a couple weeks ago for my retreat, and I saw you at the white party. It was the white party.
Yeah.
And I love when they're, you know, you get a reflection of, you know, what is possible and available, and most people wouldn't recognize it. So I get to the white party and I happen to see Maverick, and Maverick says, he said when I felt a shift in the field, he said, I felt a shift in the field, an absolute presence that came in and just brought this wave through the whole room, just of light came in and peace. And he said, and I turned and I saw you.
There you were.
He said, you walked in and you shifted the field. And I was like, thank you, Maverick. Thank you for that reflection.
Big compliment, yeah.
Yeah, and I realized this is what I mean by when we just be in our fullest love and light of who we are. You are bringing, you're not affected by the environment you go into. You bring the light and the illumination to the environment. You bring that frequency.
Influence.
Yeah, and so you can see this in the subtle things, and knowing that we're never stagnant. We're always shifting and changing and evolving. So even at our level of experience that we've had, and as we've been so committed and to experiencing the you know, and sharing this with other people, with all that we've done from, you know, you followed me around the world and we got our tonsils cryogenically frozen out of higher Ascension.
Yeah. Funny enough, today I got cryogenically frozen too, right before I saw you.
Yeah, you did.
Right before.
Yeah, so it's like, even in all that we've experienced, we're still, there's no place to arrive at. And I feel like the more that I learn and understand, the more that I realize there is to learn and receive. Not there's more for me to learn to get there. It's actually to realize I'm there. I've already arrived. There is no to ascend. To ascend is still to be expecting to get somewhere outside of me. It's actually to be more with me and to be more embodied with all that I am. And embodiment is our greatest,
why we came.
Our greatest level of gifts that we could ever give. And it's the embodiment of something. It's not the idea of it. It's not to speak about it. It's actually to be that. And so it is the greatest compliment to say that, you know, being with. And I remember Alon saying that when we were down in the jungles, even after all that we went through in the jungle, and we know that all it evolves. I remember him saying after, Marci, the greatest thing I got was just being around you. And that is the beauty of, we get to transfer these codes, and you're giving out these codes and this essence for people via podcasts, which is beautiful. From people hearing the words and hearing the way of a possibility of experiencing life, they can go, oh, I actually felt that shift in my system, or I felt something in my body become alive, or I feel it click into my body. So when people receive these codes, they're like, something just clicked. You know, something just clicked. Now I actually get it. And after people will go through medicine or my experiences, a lot of times they're like, I finally get what you say.
My clients said the same thing. I finally get it.
You know, when you say this, I understand it now. It's like it clicks in your system. So I just want to bring presence to, as you were saying, that you know, we to bring it back to understanding that we're always going to be having our dance. And when we can love the dance, love the holy human dance with it, and, you know, to shame it any way, it would be to distrust or to be out of alignment with what we're here to experience in our divinity. And I realized that by me saying, oh, my human, then I was like, oh wait, my holy human, like this is a holy thought, this is a holy journey, this is a holy everything that I'm experiencing, all this that also allows me to remember that this is why I chose into this in the first place. So beautiful. So it just that you and I are still experiencing this. We're as human as anyone else. And so there's nothing even for someone to replicate. It's literally for them to realize that they can have peace as their ultimate experience. They can have whatever they want to choose as their ultimate experience, and it gets to be by surrendering into the play and the dance of it all. Yeah.
It's just, yeah, I find that very fascinating. It's like the people I know that are the most ascended, quote unquote, to speak, are the ones becoming the most human. It's so human. It's like a human we've never actually seen a human.
It is the
be
future
that human.
evolution of human.
Yeah, and it
to display the patterns of being ultimate love and acceptance.
It's like a new type of charisma or a new type of magnetism. You know, like charisma in the past has, I think, been conflated a little bit with manipulation. Like, oh, you're so charismatic, I'll do whatever you want. You know, like, and you give your power away to charisma. But now it's like,
you just are drawn to their light.
Integrity of light or something like that. So when you step into the field, you're right, it bends right. I mean, the field, all of it. The universe is literally bending around every footstep, every single person is taking, every thought that we're having. We're so freaking powerful. And, you know, I think like what medicine really drives home is that you're not ascending, you have already ascended. I think the whole lie is that we fell.
It brings out, it dissolves the compartmentalization or the separation of self with all things.
Yeah, even you were saying we've arrived, right? We didn't even arrive, we never left.
Yeah, exactly.
We never left the bus station.
We've always been here.
It just, I guess, it became interesting to play with the idea of leaving maybe, and so we started kind of like going down that road, and maybe that was some kind of amnesia, and we're like, oh, well, that's interesting. Well, we still remember our divinity eventually, so we might as well play the game where we don't, just to see what happens. Yeah. What I thought about, though, is even if you're in a single location, there's a multi-dimensionality to every location because time doesn't actually exist. So it's like even in this one location, all things are happening right now. So you can
all timelines exist.
Yeah. It's like we've been chasing experiences outside of ourselves, and I'm guilty of that as anybody. And it's funny, it's like when you sit still is where you travel the most. Yes. Ironically.
You find the most.
Yeah, you really do.
I think it was like Carl Jung who said, like, in the darkest cave that you're afraid to enter is where you find the gold, and obviously, like, your freedom. Yeah. And that's within you. That is within you. Like, the access point is through you. The kingdom of God
is within, right?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Not that I know scripture, but it's something along to that state. I consistently find that to be so fascinating, and I have a feeling within our physical lifetime or the next, that will become a true revelation, and I believe the way that humans will start living with a new dynamic with the expression of what it means to be out here and in here. And to some degree, I think like the internet is playing that role, although it's shifting from darkness to light. A lot of what I feel is true right now is this is at the early stages of the first time where light is not being overshadowed by darkness. Like there has always been light on our planet, but there's been way more energy of darkness that's just hidden the light away or made it much easier for darkness to continue to be prevalent. And I really truly feel in my system for the first time, maybe just in the last few years, that's shifted. And that also tells me why someone like a Donald Trump or some of these other movements are happening, because again, it's like it always needs to be seen to be healed.
And they're also access points to the light.
It's the first time we can handle it. Yeah. It's the first time that the darkness won't take over. There's enough light that when that system shows up, that it will be revealed. It's the same thing with the Me Too movement and some other things that I feel like that are coming that will be very ugly for us to look at, but they've been here for such a long time that there actually has not been enough light to reveal them at a wide scale. So it's been shown in pockets, and because it's, I don't want to, it's almost like it's important for us to see. Yeah. Like we have to see it because we get to collectively heal it, and if we don't all see it, then it won't be healed. Like some darkness will shroud it again.
Each person is doing it too. It's like how we bring wholeness to the planet as we become whole. Yeah. It's not by doing something outside of ourselves. So as each person that would deal with, whatever the Me Too movement, represents, as they deal with that, they heal for themselves. They actually heal for the collective, and they heal for the whole. This is why we can, doing our own work, it can hold a field for the collective. So it can be all things, right? When all things are true, it can be like, well, wait, there's always been more darkness than light, yet through a different perception lens, we can see that darkness was always required for all that we took on so that we could, come to absolute understanding and love. And like we can't give the codes of liberation if we haven't also lived an experience of feeling imprisoned within ourselves and in society. And, you and I were sharing about my recent trip to Utah and how I said it always reminds me of what the collective deals with every day, of that they literally are afraid to speak their mind or share with their family what they want or what they think. And there's all this, oh my gosh, like, whoa, that feels like so heavy and so suppressed. And so what I believe is possible is you know, we all timelines exist. So as you're talking about, like, even in this moment, we have infinite timelines available to us. And if you go the dimension of looking at all parallel lifetimes happening at once, not even just this lifetime, like, we know that we were twins and brother and sister in another lifetime. And so it's like that lifetime is happening right now. And through our evolution of experiencing different things, as now I choose in this experience right now, knowing from what I know and seeing it from through the eyes of my divinity, that I can experience bliss and pleasure and ease and love and joy. And that can even be through my deepest transformation of vulnerability. And some of the experiences we were just sharing before, where it's like we're going through activations and initiations, and we're being called forth to feel this and open our hearts at another level. And yet it can be done through ease and grace, because there's no fight it, there's a surrender to and love and allow it. And it reminds me of there's a really great movie, especially to watch if you're on mushrooms and doing ceremony with it, but it's called The Fountain by Hugh Jackman, 12 years ago.
Great choice,
And so in that, you remember how it's like you have a contract with someone, and it's like you can replay those moments over and over and choose a different way of responding and experience that then evolves what you learn through with each one to then be choosing, you know, that level now. So I believe also even now, like, I'll do dimensional healing work where it's like in all my lifetimes, because now I've experienced these things, that I can now choose to be experiencing bliss and joy and peace and freedom in all my lifetimes now, because I have actually embodied and felt the experience of all these other things. So just even to recognize that all of these options are infinite and are all possible for us right now. It's you know, how can we surrender into or settle into that whatever we're choosing for the moment. Like, so the new earth codes, that's where I was going. You were saying like Trump, etc., darkness. It's like I believe we can literally, all timelines exist right now, so we could all choose, oh fuck Trump, darkness, etc., and we can, the world can end. And I know you didn't mean it in that context. And I also know that the more of us that actually stand in, share this, what is available. And we actually see, and we know that Trump called forth for what is suppressed in the collective. And now there's an example and a representation for it for everyone to see so clearly. And for now what's called forth is all these people are called forth to go, okay, you know what, maybe we can't plan on our government to decide for us. We can actually create our own resolution and our own solutions and our own healing, and it brings forth like separating, building a wall, doing all these things. I hardly know an inkling of anything that ever goes on there, because I don't play in that world. And yet we can see, how we get to heal separation. So of course we can see that that's what's available, is as each of us chooses to operate from new earth frequency, or what I believe is available is this new earth that you're saying. Now we're actually witnessing these things come forth for the new earth codes, for the new earth frequency, that we get to a place where you started the conversation, where we're actually sharing everything, where everything is like, it's all just God's money anyways, it's all just love. And that's what I mean by, as long as I'm fulfilled and I'm taken care of, I feel good, and this feels good, and like, this is my fullest expression, and this serves, and I'm taken care of, and then I receive all the things that I desire and require, because I'm actually in the vibration and the energy of fulfillment. So vibration matches vibration, so I can only receive everything to be fulfilled, instead of coming from I need this from you, lack, I need your money, the old systems that we've been playing out. So what is truly possible for all of us is to bring in an experience as humans, to practice being human in a way where we actually get rid of lack and scarcity, separation, sicknesses, disease, because we can all be in ease and flow. And that takes, some of us leaders go first. We go first by going ourselves, and then hold that field for others. And every single person that we're affecting can now go, so I can actually choose to operate from that place as well, sooner, see this easier as well. And the more of us that are doing that, we do bring in the new earth codes to be our timeline and experience now, to have this experience that was like, we couldn't have fathomed in the past. And our children are being born into this experience of like love. I was joking with Ben, you got to meet Ben when we were in Melbourne, and we were like, cloud, whatever you call it. Like, we're like giddy, super touchy, connected, all these things. And noticing all the people that would kind of like, everywhere we went, people would come and be like, you guys are just light. Magnetic, And, or like, oh my gosh, like watch, like, and you could also see people give you the eye, like, that's out there, that's PDA, that's, and it reminds me.
Put your pants back on. Yeah.
We're in a restaurant.
Yeah. This is a fine dining experience, madam.
Well, it reminds me when I first gave myself permission to work out in the airport.
Yeah.
And people would walk by and give me the look and it was a level of me saying, it's okay for me to do what serves me. I'm going to work out while I'm waiting for the plane.
Sure.
And then I'd have people come up and be like, oh my gosh, you're so smart. That's maximizing your time. Like, that's so cool. How do you do that?
Yeah.
And people would literally get into my programs from meeting me at the airport that saw me working out in the corner. And as we were walking around and just being this, like, this is what love is. Like,
Yeah.
love is just a magnification of our light and being in play and giddiness and joy. It's like, can you imagine? I said, can you imagine if this was normal? If we looked around and everyone was
joy
and giddy and love was like touch and connection.
Like children
versus
playing.
you go out and you see couples that have been together for a long time sitting at their date night dinner and they're not saying a word.
On phones.
Yeah, or on their phones. And like, so we are so disconnected from what you said is relaxed connection, which is just being fully with ourselves. And in that, can you imagine a world that's that? Well, you get to be that first to be able to create that world.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, leaders go first.
Yeah.
Man, there's a lot in there. At some point, I thought to myself, I keep getting this feeling that eventually we'll reset the timeline. Because again, like, time doesn't matter. So it's funny, like, if you look at the way we operate with computers, we'll tell you a lot about how the human consciousness kind of wants to operate too, because the internet is like the Akashic, and we're pulling information, the storehouse, and everyone's getting smarter because we're sharing into the Akashic, and people are pulling into the Akashic. Viral videos, you see it happen, so you know that it's possible for you, and you know, we're inadvertently, implicitly, by the way, the best way to learn, teaching each other, not explicitly, implicitly. This is how we learn a lot. Why children learn so many languages. I love this. Like, we learn all the grammatical rules of our language without learning any of the grammatical rules of our language. Yeah. We learn all the rules of society without anybody sitting down and saying, here are the rules of society. You implicitly learn these things. They are just in the field for you to pick up on. We're very, very smart this way. So it's like, do you really need to explicitly learn anything? No, you kind of are around it and you just start becoming it, whether it's negative or positive or darkness or light. And I don't mean even shadow is bad or negative is bad either. It's just, they're just opposing energies. And I get, like we said, we've lived like these 5 or 6 lifetimes. It would be appropriate then to restart. So it's like, you know, sometimes you have these like version 2.0, version 3.0 of the software, and then it's like version 3.1, 3.2. So it's like, you know, I'm like in version 5 of my life, and right now it's like the first year of that life, so I'm in 5.1. But like, you know, we had the before Christ, right, the BC, and I don't remember what AD stands for.
After death.
Whatever the fuck it is, right? But it's some Latin term. And eventually it'll be like EP. I think that's what's coming next. It's the Enlightenment period. So, and then we will reset the timeline because we won't be able to navigate in the old field anymore. It won't even make sense.
It's like you can't be who you were when I knew you 2 years ago. When we first started, it was like, we can't be who we were a month ago. We shift and evolve so quickly.
Yeah,
you know?
Every time I drink medicine, I have that vision of like already being there. And then I realize that we're gonna talk about this life like some faded dream. Yeah. Like we'll laugh at that and we'll have like sort of recall, but these like faded things, and we'll think about how we operate.
Remember how it's like when we're like, oh yeah, we forget what the collective deals with.
How do we even bring that?
I forgot that diets exist.
Exactly.
Someone said that to me the other day. They're like, when you said you forgot that diets exist, I was like, really? I deal with that every day.
Yeah.
It's like, I totally forgot that people worry about diets.
I know what you mean by that.
Yeah.
It's like, because you would never think about it. It's like just part of being. You know, it has nothing to do with choosing into some crash modality. Yeah. Very interesting. Man, I sat here and I'm receiving a lot. Like, there's so much coming through, even, you know, specifically around what was happening and noticing all the attachments about that, and like noticing how the systems are trying to propagate safety by creating plans, and then like even like letting that go and just seeing that there is actually some certain things that have wanted to go away that I've been attached to and haven't been letting them, and that's probably why like the energy keeps coming in this way. Always learning. That made no sense to anybody, but it made sense to me. Yeah,
it made sense to me, and it can make sense in that it's just like whenever you, even at your level, which, you know, you're such a beautiful divine genius soul for the planet. Yeah, and what you share, and even talking about, you know, as we talked about things you experienced with your throat before an expression, I was like, you know, babes, props to you that you have done so much to be expressed, and now there's even the next level. I felt that drop in with my new show too. I was like, whoa, all of a sudden there's just part of it. This is the main thing I want people to hear. It's just part of it. Totally. There's nothing to fight. It's just part of it. And so, you know, you receive something and it's like, oh, if I feel resistance to anything, I'm not at peace. It's literally something I'm now ready to see and witness and reveal and be with fully to see what's on the other side that I get to receive. And that's like, oh, this of course had to show up and come up so that I could be with myself fully with, this, with extra body weight, with this in the count, or anything and everything that's there for us to realize who we truly are, right? Which is who we truly are, is we're just sitting here being light, and we're just light beings, and we're just experiencing this beautiful exchange of codes and light and play and pleasure.
Always energy exchange, energy exchange. And I just want to like throw this out there. There really are no shortcuts.
Yeah.
Like I did, it's funny because you said about peace, right, and how it's not a priority. And if there's anything that's reorganized in my system, is that peace is my number one priority. Before, like, it's peace and well-being basically, and that's before being a father, before going to the gym, before eating properly, before everything. It's like peace and well-being.
Yeah. The thing I didn't share at the end about that with Sadhguru Guru is he said, if you don't make peace as your priority, peace will only come when you rest in peace. Meaning RIP. And that's where, it's like, you can't be at peace if you're not, how can you enjoy any moment if you don't choose to be at peace?
Certainly.
Yes.
Yeah, and so to add to that, like I've like everybody else, right? We're kind of in a state of either addiction or allergies. It's like your physical body is literally either, what you're allergic to is an energy frequency that your body is like trying to move away from, or it's trying to move towards something. And I use substances like psychedelics for a long time, and when I reflected back on it over the last 2 years, because it's not like I wouldn't use them now, but now I use them.
You use them when they call.
Yeah, much more consciously than the past. And this is true for alcohol or sex or food or anything else that we do, even art and music and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's like escapism most of the time versus like whatever presence really. And there's a lot of things like I felt like I had moved beyond because I'd used it, but I was really chasing peace.
Yeah.
Once in a while, I would just get the right dose and the right experience, and then I'd have a few weeks or a few days or even a few minutes or a few months of peace, and I was like, oh cool, well, if this experience gave me that, then I wasn't really chasing the high. I was chasing the peace that came after the high more than anything. It wasn't really until the last few years where I really started, like before we got on this call, I had a lot of anxiety, tension, fear moving through my system, and I could see all the systems, like I said, coming online, trying to game plan, figure out, okay, how am I going to move this piece over here, and that's going to make me feel just a little bit more comfortable. But it's like all that stuff is just protecting you from what gets to move through. It's like we've set up life mostly as like a spiritual bypass than just being present with what's so. When you're scared, you're scared. When you're upset, you're upset.
Yeah, and you love that.
And no matter how many times or how elevated you get or how ascended you get, something's coming that's fucking rocking you and scaring you again, or overwhelming you again, or creating more anxiety than your body can handle, or makes you feel sad in ways that you never imagined you would, or maybe you feel love in ways that you never imagined, and joy in ways that you never imagined. All that stuff, it just gets to be there. That's the biggest shift for me. It's like I really have learned how to sit with all of it and
enjoy the dance
and notice that my system does want to run, my system does want to freak out, but I have enough patience to be like, hey, like you said, look around.
Remember,
it's
I
safe.
said that when we
started. That's always very helpful, right?
It's
notice that there's support. Notice that you're safe.
We're just having tea in this room. Abundance
it's
is
beautiful,
everywhere.
Right? Notice there's connection. And the moment it's like I call that the GPS. So the support, the safety, and the connection, right? Like once you actually notice that even in your physical space, in your energetic space, the body responds very acutely to that. Because then suddenly, if you notice those three things, your body can kind of just sit with whatever is so much more peacefully, meet it with a loving embrace, and then it's like, okay, cool, like this is, and then the experience becomes joyous, because then even sadness or fear becomes an expression of the perfect whole human, right? And then you are just with it, and you're watching it from a divine place, and you go, I'm so grateful I had that experience,
And the beauty of experiencing what we get to share together and support each other with is why the human connection is, as much as like there's you talk about two pathways where there's like, the in India and in a lot of like the wholeness journey, it's like I'm whole and complete on my own. So I don't require anything outside of me. And at the same time, we are born as humans to, and when you talked about the attachment styles, etc. This is just conversation from prior before with you and I about, it's like, well, we require that loving connection to go when the system feels overwhelmed, the parent to say, oh, sweet,
Yep.
this is what you're feeling.
I need help soothing.
We don't
Yeah.
usually get that. And so then we
Mhm.
have all the disconnect and all these different things. And really, in what I love that you brought presence to is the journey, or that what we're sharing together is to go through these deep, vulnerable experiences. Even right after my retreat, I was, again, as we get called to share frequency, all of a sudden initiation comes in, activation of a whole nother level. It was like being called to be vulnerable and at a whole nother level that just scares the fuck out of you.
Yeah.
And to have, in one of my recent experiences, to have divine family around me, where it was like I had a whole, I'm going to say pussy again, because my pussy came up, like the whole, after my last retreat, it's like I was called to do all this healing for the feminine in the womb activation and safety with the masculine. And so literally physical symptoms show up. My pussy swells up, like I had all this pain.
Yeah.
I was having labor pains, like I was rebirthing. I was having like pains of like birthing, and it was like I'm rebirthing, I'm moving this through for the planet, and I'm rebirthing. And I had to literally like spread eagle, like showing my good friend, I'm like, what's going on? And like my friends, I couldn't sit, I couldn't move, I couldn't walk. I was like, and I was like,
Incredible.
the holy human thought that came up was that I said to my friends, I was like, I promise my pussy's usually really pretty.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, I promise my pussy's usually a pretty pussy. And my dear sister was like, oh, sweetheart, it's so pretty right now. It's so pretty right now. And they were just like, oh, babes, like, we got you. It's okay that you're like, and to be in that place of where my old humanness would have wanted to have said, okay, I got this. Like, and this was even in, experiencing it with my beloved, to be like, yeah, I got this. I'm just going to take care of this thing and I'll see you in a bit.
Yeah.
And then realizing, no, like the next level of surrender was like, I require support.
Yeah.
And like literally to come get me and take me everywhere. And when saw our alien doctor and all these things just to see what emotional stuff I was moving through. And there was that level of dropping into being loved. So this comes from, I can love myself so unconditionally. I got to ask for support. I was like, hey guys, this is what I'm experiencing. Any ideas, any support? And they literally like came by my side, checking me out, like setting things up, seeing how they could support me. And that level of, okay, relax and surrender to even that. We can provide for each other the gateway to going, I can love you unconditionally no matter what you experience. And this is where we train our relationships to really know that we can love someone no matter what their reaction is, what their experience, and our mastering, seeing the mastery we have of our consciousness and our relaxation, our responses. Everyone deserves more love, not less.
In fact, it helps the other person heal when they can be seen while you're relaxed.
It's it's playing the game of polarism, duality, where it's like, you're here, and I can go,
I see you.
And it's okay
medicine.
that you can, that you get to express that. So we have this gorgeous opportunity together to be able to show each other divine unconditional love and support. And that means also by doing that for ourselves, and we can create that for someone else. So there's that. And I love that a part of that is, as you said, which is so important, I feel like, for the message that we share today, is it's not a one-off thing. It's a journey, meaning, and I also teach them, like, there's no, when we go, I'm in a process, quotation marks, right? We're creating a process. What I mean is that, like, this is why I believe, and I believe you operate in this way as well, is that we show people the journey, meaning like each step is a part of our perfect growth process we chose. How could we deny this moment if we divinely actually created this for ourselves? That's right. And we can never make a mistake, because everything is energy and vibration. That's just reflecting what vibration and energy we're in, and what's inside that gets to be healed and loved. So it's by realizing that we're here experiencing a level of peace upon another level of peace, upon another level of embodiment of luscious love affair with ourselves, to another level of pleasure, to another level of this, by continuing on the journey. Yeah. By being on a journey together, we rise together in love. And how much more quickly can we, when I can be a reflection of divine unconditional love and radical self-acceptance and, acceptance of Trump and all things and all experiences, then I can reflect that for someone else. And if I can be that for you, and you can feel that and have that experience or that new reference point, and find that reference point within yourself, how much faster can we as a society rise together in love and experience this? Yeah. So ultimately, it's to know that it isn't a one quick program. I created my Best Life Tribe based out of, I was like, what would I give my own children? Because I was like, if I was if I was to, I know I can never save anyone because they can only save themselves,
right.
and they can only choose it for themselves. Yet, if I was to, do everything I could to support someone, which would be someone who I absolutely in every way would want to save. Yeah, I know I can't save them. My own children came to mind. I was like, what would I create and give that my own children would have available, the path to their own, if they chose with each thing to learn, to integrate each tool, to learn and understand what would I give them? And that's why I created my tribe, was because it's like access to every single one of my things where they're on the journey.
Yeah.
It's a journey. It's just being on the journey together.
Yeah, it's nourishment.
And each person, no matter where they're at, they might be like, I don't even know how to accept a compliment and love myself that much, to someone who's totally done like you are, followed me all over the world, and it's full on, and like, what's going to serve me at the highest, even to say above my wife and my child, etc., is my absolute peace, because that's when you're showing up ultimately for them. It's all, for all of us, a journey. It's just the journey. It's the dance. And it's like, I've started to say, I love this whole human dance.
Yeah.
I love the dance. And yesterday I was wiped out. I told you I was so toasted at initiation.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I'm glad I'm operating today that I can be with you. So it's like, it's just a part of the dance.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's part.
Real-time feedback from the universe. If you accept that every experience that you have, you chose before you came here, you knew all the choices that you'd have. Meaning your highest self picked the experience, and your higher self considers that a gift for your soul, for your essence,
your
whatever.
Soul's kindest gift is always what's in front of you.
So if you're not in presence and you're not in receiving, then it's like literally turning down yourself from your highest state. Many years ago, our mutual friend Mateo, who's a really, really powerful, beautiful channel.
I'll see him in 2 days.
Yeah, just a magnetic and magical human being in so many freaking ways. I love telling stories about him. Yeah, he's just a special one. So shout out to you, buddy. He said something really brilliant. He said, this force, energy, entities, call it what you will, are essentially always trying to give gifts. What his aim is he's like, imagine them sending like a package to a mailbox. Because most humans don't even know the mailbox exists.
Exactly.
He's like, let's start with showing you where the mailbox is, so that you know how to open it and look inside, and then find the gifts that are there. I thought that was a very profound and poetic type of way of explaining that. And it's like, well, the mailbox is really within. Those experiences are within. And if you guys just look real quick for yourself, whatever you're dealing with right now in life, your energy is probably pointed out trying to change the circumstance to give yourself a feeling of safety by changing how somebody sees you, how some circumstance is, how you're receiving something, how you're manipulating something, how you're achieving something. And you've done that most of your life. And if you just kind of check in real quick with your system and ask yourself, has that worked? I've worked with enough people to know that the answer to that is most likely no. And the funny part about life is that if you do the polar opposite of everything that you've learned, life seems to work really, really well for people. And that doesn't necessarily mean that's the right answer, because I think if there is such a thing as a right answer, which there isn't, the neutral state seems to be the best state.
Yes.
Not
of
this, not of that. It's like nobody needs to learn how to manifest. That's a really cute buzzword everyone uses to sell you shit. At the end of the day, no human can stop themselves from manifesting.
You're manifesting right now.
You're a manifesting machine. It's just the real question is, what are you manifesting?
Yeah, exactly.
And are you manifesting it out of fear and scarcity? Are you manifesting it out of love and connection? Are you manifesting it from an aligned, relaxed, connected state? And you'll find that what you're manifesting changes dramatically based on which of those frequencies you decide to take on. So if there was a journey to be on, it's to really fall in love with yourself. Find a way to calm your fucking system down, get yourself relaxed. And Marci touched upon it, and for a lot of people this is very hard to accept in a loving or spousal type of relationship, when somebody seems to be being bad towards you. And like the answer is that you've been trying to do a lot to fix that person, and the neutrality would have you do nothing at all except just be with that person. And here's what I mean by that. I tried to deal with my anger for many years by having people tell me that I was like okay or very, I don't know what I was trying to get to. I really don't. It was like this abstract fucking thing I was trying to achieve. Ultimately, what I realized is behind all that was just a lot of sadness and fear of lack of safety, really. And this anger was there to protect me and whatnot. And I'm sure there's many more layers I'll discover with that over the years. And the most medicine I have found for myself these days, besides giving it to myself like self-love, is like allowing myself to be seen in all the ways that I am. And when you have somebody who really can sit with you with unconditional love, and say, yeah, it's okay. You can do the anger.
Yeah.
I see you anyway. You can do the sadness. I see you anyway. I'm here, relaxed connection with you. And they choose into that experience. Most of us have never been angry or sad or any of the things without somebody trying to manage us to be some other way.
Or to try to make it better.
Because sometimes you're like, oh, sweetheart, why are you sad? Even that, right? It's like basically saying it's not okay to be where I am, which means that you don't then fully envelop yourself and enjoy and dive into the experience and like really just almost get lost in the sadness, but with an appreciation and divine love that can come along with it. But the moment somebody's like,
I can hold you in all of your sadness.
Come on.
I can hold you in all of your anger.
You get the medicine because you get to see that you actually get to be seen and still receive love and still be supported and still have safety when that happens.
That's the healing for the divine masculine and feminine. I believe is like medicine. Just as much as like I can hold a space that the little boy inside can fully feel seen and heard and sad and not have to support or all these other things. Like the men get to have that experience for their total for their awakening, for their opening of everything, for their relaxing fully into their feminine and to their masculine and all of it to support. And same thing that the little girl wants inside is she wants to be able to fully be held and seen and loved, unraveled and completely surrendered and completely in all of it, and to know that there's no mask that has to be put on or worn. And we have that love is the most healing thing. Mm-hmm. Love is the answer to all of it. As we know, you know, it all comes down to just, can we practice love?
Elon was in the jungle. He said, we've said it before and I'll say it again. And that's what it always comes back to is love is the answer. And that becomes more poetic and more important and more even grand over time. Yeah. How really simple it all is. Every answer everyone's looking for really comes back down to the simple truth that it's all love. That you are the essence of God. You never were separated from it. You are the ascended master, and all the rest of it is just an illusion that we've clamored on top of this very simple truth and try to make it very complex. Yeah. And hopefully one day we find out why we decided to do that in the first place, because we clearly came from that. It would seem to me though that God was probably really bored and just wanted to ultimately just play a game that seemed more interesting than just sitting around being everything nothing all the time. And it became this very complex machine. But evolution,
I experience it or see it as realizing that we came from this all-knowing, and for
all feeling,
in being in that, if you're operating as an ascended master, and you are even at this time, that in the holy human experience is when it's like when you come out of medicine and you're coming back into your body and you taste fruit and you're like,
oh my God, yeah. First time ever.
It's like drizzling down your face and you're barely able to chew and like feeling it, and it's like it is the most, it's like you've tasted, if you've gone to a different country and you taste something that you've never tasted, and it just was like you never even knew this thing existed, and you remember, oh my gosh, this is why I came here to be human. Mm-hmm. Every taste, I remember Esther Hicks, she actually lived in my neighborhood in Delmore, probably still does, my old neighborhood, and her talking about an experience where she began to see everything and was feeling like the sensation of the air and just like the beauty and all things, and then she realized Abraham was looking through her eyes. She's like, wait, Abraham, and he's like, I was taking a glimpse. Like, so it's like we actually, this was our Disneyland. Yes. And yet, so isn't it funny that we wouldn't call it Disneyland? Yeah. When it's like we wanted to experience what sadness is, what anger is, what all this emotion is, because we didn't have a story up there as to it being a bad thing. Mm-hmm. It was like, and this allows me to understand all realms of my wholeness. Yeah. All aspects, if we're all aspects of the cosmos, we return to that, or we are always that, that's what we get to experience and know that we are. And so that's part of it. So it's like, to really give ourselves the power and the permission of saying, yes, I chose this, because I don't believe we ever have to do anything. Yeah. So it's like we can actually, there's many ways of our experiences. We're very many different types of aliens and different planets, and we've experienced all these things. So for when we choose here in this holy human journey, it is like one of the highest, greatest rides to go on, right? It's the best ride ever. And so it's like, the funny part about it is that when we're here, we're like, I didn't choose it on this fucking ride. Yeah. I want off this ride. And people want to be out of their body and leave the experience and die and transition. And really, when it was like, actually, this was our greatest ride. Yeah. So when we see it from that gift and that clarity, and that is our, to see it through its divine light, is there's actually nothing to forgive. There's nothing to fight.
Yep.
There's nothing to refuse, because we can understand, oh, that's right. And that's the sinking into it, the relaxing into it more. That's right. Can I love that part of me that's pissed off about this, that doesn't want to accept it? Can I love that part of me that is, saying I have this judgment about it?
Fighting.
And this must be God's cruel joke. And it can also be God's, I believe, our
biggest opportunity.
God was like, this is for you, my loves. I created this as one of your places to play and discover. And so for us to truly, with infinite possibilities that exist, all timelines that exist, all traits within us, all things available, it's literally like our greatest, grandest adventure of discovery of our expression and our joy. And when we see it out of there's so many ways to experience joy, even in this very timeline right now, in this experience right now, and all the things we're experiencing, wow, it's how could anything be other than beautiful about that? And so it's a choice. It's always a choice of perception. It's a choice of experience. And so it's wait, what is really true that absolutely serves me, and can I feel the frequency of that? Because even in the ways that we can spiritually bypass, it's we think one thing's happening, but we can actually go, well, what does this represent, this feeling? I was with a friend before who was talking about going through this settlement, and I said, could you maybe rename it to celebration?
Yeah.
I'm what is, because even to think of, he's oh yeah, and I didn't realize that there was the feeling there of well, I got to get through this settlement, and then I can
get through.
And then do this. And see, all those things represent what we're creating as in the infinite timeline and possibilities to exist. So it's really with all things, I choose now, this is how I continue to remind myself. I continue to remember fully that in even the depths of all the things that I get to feel, how, oh, that's right, I chose this. This is my soul's kindest act for me in this moment. All this that I'm feeling is actually so beautiful. To feel this depth of sadness, or this depth of compassion, this depth of vulnerability, is actually the greatest, most beautiful thing that I could feel in this moment, and to go this next layer that I chose. And that is the gift, to see it from that place, because anything else would be denying myself of the divinity that I am.
That's right. Yeah, it's you almost learn to, hopefully this comes out right, and enjoy pain without suffering.
Yes, because suffering is a choice.
Yeah, so
pay attention inside now.
That's beautiful.
Pain.
I was going to say, pain makes you pay attention. Pain calls your attention to something, and the same thing true whether it's physical, emotional, or spiritual pain. It directs your attention. It's hey, look.
That's it.
Yeah, and it's not inviting you to suffer. It's just inviting you to get present, basically. So
the story we're addicted to is to create our own suffering.
Beautiful.
The chemical addiction is to create our own suffering or sacrifice, etc. And when we truly were wow, wait. No, this is beautiful. This is my gorgeous gift of holy human experience. And I know for a lot of people it can be easier to hear those words and to say those words than to experience. And that's why I brought presence to, we still are experiencing this ourselves.
All the time.
And we still are practicing sinking into that and going, oh, I am safe, and it is okay to feel all of this, and this is what is calling me forth to be able to allow the next level of my remembrance and receivership of this.
Well, humans are, if you look at evolution keeps creating more and more complex machinery, right? So it's we're, at least from what we can tell right now, about as complex a machine as it gets. But a complex machine has many, many moving parts to it, which means there's a lot to feel through in your system. And it's even before you got into any awareness, how many experiences have you had that have trained your system to operate and automate itself into a certain way? And we know through epigenetics now that 95 to 99% of everything that you operate is completely automated.
Memorized.
Yeah, it's memorized action, memorized feelings, memorized sensations. Yeah. So it does take a lot of your willingness to be present with everything that's going on to start reshaping that system in a very slow, patient, and graceful way. Basically the child that you were that learned to walk and talk. The grace of it is that you did it over and over again without ever judging yourself while you did it. The reality is that's never stopped. You're still stumbling and falling and learning to walk and learning to talk, and that's continued your entire life. But for some reason we've developed the false adult that believes that it's supposed to know everything and that it can't do that anymore and that it doesn't have that space for it. My interpretation these days is that most children without context, right? Because you have to go through this mythical thinking and this egocentric thinking. It's all part of the evolutionary process of the human psyche and emotional and spiritual part. And now we're actually moving through a lot of evolution in a very short time span of a lifetime. Because now every 15, 16-year-old on the planet is dealing with ethnocentrism and world-centric viewpoints. And 100 years ago, that was unheard of. Nobody was doing that. Like, the ascended masters on the planet were basically like, oh, we should think about the world, like shit like that. So my thing is, like, if you think about a child that was saw a divorce between two parents, the first thing you say to the child is, it's not your fault. Because we internalize, like, oh, well, if it's in my experience, then I must be the reason it's happening, right? So if the child keeps experiencing this without the growing up and awakened up part, that those experiences come with a lack of context, which means, of course, you start blaming yourself and shaming yourself for all this pain. Then you're told to become an adult. Yeah. And the adult looks at the child and says, well, you're the fucked up one. Yeah. You have all the shame and blame you're carried around, so I can't take you with me to where I'm going. So you, like, hide the child, you push it away. Yeah. And then you hear people say, well, I got to find out who I am. So you start traveling, you start going through experiences, and you start attaching people to yourself, you start attaching experiences to yourself, you start attaching things to yourself, thinking that you're somehow gonna find out who you are, but the thing is, you've already turned away from your very essence, which was the little boy and little girl. So now you're living in this false adult, so to speak, life. And then the awakening process is noticing the false adult, right? Now I really have to do anything about it, but just noticing it does the trick. Like
witness.
Yeah, witness does everything. Witness is the thing that's making sure your fingers get back together when you have a cut, and that your bones mend themselves, and that food is metabolizing. Like, you never have to put any input into that at all. The body and the spirit and the energy just knows, and the body and the spirit and the energy just knows how to heal every aspect of you. So if you just witness, so then I find what is coming away is the false adult, and then the true adult is the one that's not trying to feel better, but getting better at feeling.
Yes.
And then, and the true adult wants to turn back to the child. So again, like now I'm raising a little boy, and what becomes so apparent is the child doesn't have a nervous system that knows how to soothe itself, which is why we're holding the child and shushing the child and, doing all the things for the child, because that's what the adult does. The adult soothes the child. However, if you've turned away from your child, that's why your nervous system is overactive, because your nervous system is the child. Yeah. So now it's like what we get to become. Here's what I realize with a lot of my clients is the way that you wanted your parents to be, that idealized version, is your true adult. Yeah. You get to become that adult for yourself, and you get to soothe the inner child with the idealized parent that you're supposed to have. But that's your journey. That's the hero's journey. Is I wanted that parent. I get to become that parent, but like
healing's available for you
absolutely.
Right now.
And the moment you start connecting those two, that's where I feel like integral is coming online. Yeah. So like it's like the parent is like waking up, and the parent is like the growing up, like the adult is the growing up aspect, and the child is the one that's aware. It's connected to source, because the child never had to be told, hey, there's a thing called God. You just know you are a mythical, magical creature. Yeah. So it's like, of course you believe in infinite possibility, and that you're connected to everything, and that when you move, and when you do this, a mountain moves, and when you shoot like this, everything gets burned alive or whatever it is. Like you have no question about that as a child. So it's like, now connect those two. Yeah. Connect the awakened part. Connect the part that's soothing. Connect the part that believes in magic, and be all of it. Yeah. Don't even choose aspects anymore. Yeah. Just choose as many. And again, there's gonna be fucking distortions like crazy in every single aspect of that. But we are gonna learn to move through that and see truth. A cleaner version of truth more and more as we continue to grow and age. And I do think that's the great task of our time, is to, if there is such a thing like a task, or time. Yeah, exactly. The T's. Just to be mindful that we are integrating something really new on planet Earth right now, individually. And if you want to go for that ride first, you get to write the code, which is really fun.
Every experience is new.
Yeah, you get to write the code.
Every experience is new. So it's not from what we saw in the past, what we were in the past.
Exactly.
It's not who we are. That's just what we learn. Mm-hmm. Every moment is new.
Structures get to be broken down and rebuilt.
Yeah. Build a new model.
Yeah, something that really gives me solace today is I used to think, oh, well, I'm on my path. I'm doing my shit. Look at me, and I'm doing the good work. And to some extent, that maybe that's true. But now I realize, like, we're all going through this thing called evolution. Like, you can't stop it. The only difference is...
to be stagnant.
Yeah, the only difference is people like me and you and maybe people who are like our clients, they're interested in what the manual says. Yeah. And they're doing their best to try to decipher it and read it. So while they're going through the process, there's like, oh, okay, maybe that's what's happening, right? And you get some sense of it.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is that we're all going through it.
Yeah.
You can't stop it.
Yeah.
And whether you have faith or no faith, it really truly does not matter. Whether you're an atheist or the most religious Orthodox, it really truly does not matter.
And you really could see it as like, how much easier do I desire it to be by reading the manual or seeing it from the context of understanding versus just, trying to
screaming.
Exactly. And that's why I say, like, some people might not understand what we talked about in the beginning of force or flow, where it's like, no, that doesn't make any sense. I need a plan and a to-do and da-da-da-da. And when you realize that's the kicking and screaming versus the flow, which is allowance and ease and grace and all these other things, and it's like, oh yeah, so it can be whatever journey you want it to be. It can be whatever experience we want it to be. It's simply a choice.
That's right. I say choose some patience and choose some grace.
Yeah.
And even it takes patience and grace to have patience and grace.
Yeah, just breathe.
Yeah.
Presence is breath.
Yeah.
So if we can just breathe with whatever we're experiencing, I've always taught that with that
breathe
3 steps to the 5 steps.
Yeah,
breathe and and it's beautiful to just remind. I have all these memories of me and Alon and all the experiences we had, and even that first when you guys first started coaching with me. Do you remember that dinner with your family?
Mm-hmm.
And
total breakdown.
Family breakdown.
Yeah.
Dad asked the
a fantastic
questions.
breakdown.
Yeah, such a beautiful thing, which was just the start of you guys. Like, you guys have grown on this so much that this is what you exemplify for your clients, and you've dove so deep into the feelings in the body. Which I remember you being like, if you told me we were going to do this for, coaching, I would have been like, whatever. Yeah, you had totally a different idea or pathway that you thought it would happen, and I just remember that experience showing up and sitting next to Alon, feeling your energy just contract and get like, what?
Yeah.
And it triggered you guys, and with Alon be like, aww, and breathe, and like that relaxed his system to be like, okay, I can take in what's being said right now and I can receive it. And that was a huge step forth for your whole family. Really got called into both your parents too, into like being more on the path and going through the stuff, and all together, like, just like, wow, what a beautiful gift from that moment of just, let me breathe with this and let me be that relaxed to receive whatever is there, and allow whatever is here to come up. And that's really our opportunity every single moment, just to breathe and relax and be with what's here.
Learn how to feel.
And hold love.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's like funny, we live on this whole planet,
hold your hand.
and so few of us actually know how to feel, mostly because we were never taught or got to truly experience our feelings in a profound way. And when I first started working with you, if you would have told me I'm going to teach you how to feel, I would have been like, that's intriguing, and I'm not sure that I'm up for that ride, and like today, I don't think that there's honestly anything more important truly than like learning how to feel. If you want to bridge the gap from like this false adult and child and everything that we're talking about, it's just, you just can't be present until you learn that it's okay to I don't want to say how to feel, that it's okay to feel, that it doesn't break you, it actually mends you, and resolves pieces, and you start noticing everything that's trying to manage your feelings and correct things, and it's been doing it since you were a very little boy and girl, and you honestly, it's been doing it for so long that you just don't even remember a world where you weren't you didn't manage yourself all the time, and there's that ease and grace and peacefulness comes from not managing yourself. No child that's learning to walk is managing themselves. If they did, they'd fall 3 times and go, fuck it, I guess we're not walking in this lifetime. That doesn't happen with managers. So that implicit learning we're talking about is really by taking the just letting those pieces go, and just really just letting life start unfolding the way that it chooses to, not rushing.
Divine timing, divine order.
Trusting your intuition.
All things have a right to exist. It's all just showing up.
Yeah, I was kind of like joking. I'm like, Marci, what's next? And I know it's like, well, what's next is me hanging out until something comes through and tells me what the next step to take is, versus me trying to make it. And
right now, this is the biggest. One of the things I've learned so much on, even in this last year, is as much as like I get, something shows up and I get called to be in, some amazing experiences all over the world, and all the divine family that shows up and the divine contracts, and it's just like the grandest adventure that the universe brings forth for me. As much as all that is available, I literally feel just pure peace and pleasure and joy being in this very moment. Like, like this moment, I get to be like, that's why when I showed up, I was like, I'm so happy, babe, just to be here with you. I could just sit here and be with you.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy in this moment, and to feel fulfilled in every single moment as my experience in whatever I'm in. And, you know, it's like being in this moment, I am fulfilled. And that is the vibration of, you know, absolute love that then we continue to receive from the universe, that the thing for our next greatest fulfillment, because it's vibrational alignment. And when I was in a place where, like, you know, all sorts of stuff was going down, and my oldest called me, and he was like, it was actually when the hurricane thing was happening, and he was like, Mom, I heard there's, you know, a hurricane coming. He's like, I just want to make sure you're okay. It's like, it'd really suck if you died in a hurricane. This is Sky Guy. Yeah. And I said, the thing that came out of me was like, actually, babes, I said, thank you. First off, I was just like, thank you for letting me know that you care so much. And I know that really he was just wanting to, you know, it's out of love. And I said, actually, sweetie, if I transition, like, I have no regrets. I feel absolute peace. My only thought that came up was that I wouldn't be here with you physically. Yeah. And I would still be always, you know, totally fucking with you in the ethers and playing with you and being with you. And I little pee-pee touch. Back to that. We'll bring it full circle. That's little mini pee-pee touch. Yet when that came out of me, it was beautiful for me to have a reflection of myself that that's how I was now operating from life. There was no regrets. Amazing. I have done enough understanding now to see every experience I've ever had out of divinity. Yeah. Every experience, every interaction, every feeling, every phase has been pure bliss and divine beauty. That there is this luscious love affair with life now, you know, and that everything is so beautiful and everything is so divine that each, you know, just there's abundance everywhere and everything, and magic and miracles and God and good and everything. And to be in a place where I could say, oh, I have no regrets. I realize how abnormal that might be for the normal human. Sure. To, you know, we shame our past, our experiences. We think there's still somewhere to arrive at. And it was like, babes, if I transition, just know I'm so happy. I'm so happy. Yeah. It was perfect. Apparently it would have been perfectly timed for me to transition. Absolutely. And I have no regrets. And I just was like, wow, that's beautiful for me to receive from myself. Yeah. That's what actually is operating from within. So the more that we can simply allow ourselves to just love this very moment, because it is how much more can I love this moment? Yeah.
Ironically, Elon said the same thing on the coaching call just this afternoon. Of course you know, I have found that to be truer and truer over time. The first time I said that, I was coming back from Vipassana, and I'm in the car bawling my eyes out, just experiencing so much beauty, and I said to the cameras, I actually have this moment on camera.
Yeah. That's the first time I saw you.
It was probably the first time you saw me. Yeah. And I said, you know, whether I live another day or another million years, I want, if I should pass in that time period, that whoever watches this know that I died happy. Yeah. And the reason I said that was because even for a fraction of a moment of time, I felt this deep connection of peace, restful connection. I didn't have words for it then, with like the all. Yeah. You know, and not because I was on substance or not because something had happened, but like, I did this experience and there it was. And I realized in that moment that I experienced something that people go lifetimes, like many lifetimes, never experiencing for any time. And experience that for a fraction of a second, I understood what a gift that was. And I got to sit in it and enjoy it and bliss in it and just like swim in it. And that's why I was crying, because it was so beautiful to experience the world from that lens. And that was really the first time I was like, wow, okay, it would be fine if I passed because I got to experience that. That was enough. And it doesn't mean that I'm like, yeah, okay, get me out of here. And you know, and I still went back to that place for many years, like, well, get me out of here because I know what's there for all of us. But you know, what's come through the last few years again is like, no, that me there, that chose human body, yes. Like smarter than me, way smarter than me, way more access than me. I'm like, it knows. I'm like, I better fall in love with this meat suit. I better fall in love with this life. Otherwise, what was the point? It's funny you were talking about all, like, you know, the ride, right? And I had this image of all these like ascended masters like standing at the top of this mountain, just fucking giggling and laughing. And then once in a while, one of them's like, I'm gonna jump off this cliff into that water. And then on the way down, they're like, whee! And they splash back down. But you know, the aspect of yourself sits up there and just loves this little thing. And they probably get to the top of the mountain. You're like, that was fucking crazy. And then you're like, I'm gonna go do it again, and you just like dive
That's
back
what
into
we're
the pool.
doing.
Yeah,
We are over and over. I told
Totally.
you how even through this dance of some stuff this last year, I said I had this moment of my angels and the guides and the ascended masters being like, ha ha, when you guys thought that you had realizing we have some sort of idea of like this isn't working, or when it does this then it's working, and they're like, it's all been working perfectly.
It's never not working.
Yeah, it's always working.
Always working.
So good.
Okay, beautiful as always. I love you, Marci Lock.
Oh, I love you so much.
Crushing that life game in such a fun way. Any parting words?
Love.
Yeah, do the love thing.
Do the love thing.
Yeah.
I love you. I just appreciate your reflection and who you are in the world. Just have such a deep love for you, as always. You've always had such a divine,
For sure.
obviously, soul code companionship and contracts, and I appreciate that you are this vessel of truth for other people, and that all that I've seen you go through, and that meaning all that you've been willing to receive, all that you've been willing to allow and see to be the expression that you are and the truth that you are. And so I'm just so happy to stand with you and to be with you and to sit with you and to love with you and to cry with you and to do crazy shit all over the world with you.
That's awesome.
Watch you being a dad. I cried so hard. It was there's a whole other story to that. The divine vision that we saw and all that you aligned to, and getting to witness you, and all of it's so beautiful. So thank you for just being in the beautiful journey with me.
Got it. Thank you so
Aho
much.
and Ashe.
Yeah, namaste. I love you so much. I could say all the same to you. I love you. Thank you for being here. And if anybody wants to reach out to Marci, I'll make sure her information's down below. Guys, we love you very much. Thank you for listening to this. Yeah. And if you have any questions, we're here for you. Bye-bye, guys.
Beautiful.
Boom. Thanks for joining us, guys. Love you very much.
Mwah.
How do I end this gizmo?
I don't know, I just keep getting distracted by the furry
furry
balls.
You guys want some furry balls? This is the furry ball. Alright, eventually I'll figure out how to shut this down. Let's see. Nope.
They just want to hang you more.
There we go.
Continue.
You want to finish broadcast?